Good evening, metallurgists. What's shaking? We're here. Another episode number 171 of Heavy Metallurgy. Happy Friday. Hope you've all endured the week. I'm Marty, and I am joined once again by my intrepid, amazing host, Professor Dundee.
Just noticing that, huh?
I just noticed it. How you doing, Alan?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. Good to see you, Marty. Good to be here tonight. Hello to everybody who is starting to fill up the live chat. Good to see all of you as well. We are in the middle of August in the United States. The East Coast is getting absolutely drenched by Hurricane Debbie. Hope people are staying safe and dry. We've checked in with a couple of folks here and there. Aaron, the metal theologian, is doing just fine. And Hunter, again, is also okay. You know, those guys were kind of in the path of Debbie early on in the week, but they both reported everything was okay. And so you got through the early stages with no big problems. Hope everyone else up and down the East Coast is also staying dry and ready just to relax, have some fun, and talk about some heavy metal, because we've got a really cool guest, someone we haven't had before. But before we can bring him out here, we got to do the announcements things.
Hey, Bob Goodwin from Denmark. First time. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
Cheers, Bob. Thanks for joining.
Oh, and we threatened like 3 times this week. We finally hit 5,700 subscribers. So cheers to everyone that is subscribed. We appreciate
it. Yeah, we know you hear it all the time from people, but it is a little thing that, helps out just in terms of getting things more visible and, getting more people to join in the fun. So if you haven't, go subscribe. What's wrong with you? Why haven't you done it? See, everybody asks nice. I'm just going to start yelling at people for doing it. What is your problem? Just hit the stupid button already. Anyone can do it. A trained chimp can do it. The sick little monkey on my back could hit it.
30% of those sick little monkeys aren't subscribed that are watching. So subscribe. Help us out.
There you go. Yeah. So we'll try the tough love approach and see if that helps.
Yeah.
But
all
Marty,
right.
What kind of new releases do we have on this date in history, which is August the 9th?
Well, we got a few bangers, and, it just kind of seems like a lot of reissues. But for August 9th, starting off the pack, we have Alex Lifeson, Victor re-release on Rhino. Blue Oyster Cult, 50th Anniversary Live, second night on Frontiers. Dark Funeral, 30th Anniversary Edition on Century Media. 30 years. Oh, my God. Fireball Ministry, Their Rock Is Not Our Rock, re-release on Ripple. Fulci, Duckface Killings on $20 spin. Geddy Lee, My Favorite Headache, re-release on Rhino. Hammerfall, Avenge the Fallen, on Nuclear Blast. That Melanie reviewed that, got it up yesterday. Thanks for checking it out, those of you who did. Hyliung, Heilu, Hyliung, I don't know how to say that. It's the people with the deer antlers and the bones and skin made drums. Lifa Ayatungard, nailed it. Season of Mist. In Aphelion, Reaper Dawn on Century Media. And for those of you who like stuff that sucks, Mushroom Head, Call the Devil on Napalm. Oxygen Destroyer, Guardian of the Universe on Redefining Darkness. Pig Destroyer, Painter of Dead Girls, re-release on Relapse. And Prestige, Parasites in Paradise, re-release on Massacre. Is there anything I forgot, Alan?
Just a couple of others I'll tack onto that. Let's see. God Dethroned has the Judas Paradox out today.
Right.
Which, may just be a single for the new album. But, you can check that out. And also, I don't know much about this band, but I know some folks in the chat tend to like them. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard has a new album out, which is probably their 3rd this year and their 8th within the past 13 months. So if you've made a full-time job out of trying to keep up with that band's releases, you've got more homework this weekend.
Well, every scene needs a haunt.
And the King Gizzard does seem to haunt the new release list.
They sure do. Yep.
So there you go. There's a few good things, but it looks like August is going to be another month like July, where a lot of the bigger releases people are waiting for come out toward the end of the month. So if you don't see anything this week, it's okay. Save your money. You might need it in a few weeks.
Right on. Well, without further ado, let's get this fine young gentleman out here. Geoff from Mendicant Media. Welcome.
Awesome.
Finally.
Hey, fellas, how you going?
Good to have you. Thanks for joining us. What's been going on in your world?
Lots of Aussie other videos that I've been doing, like underrated Aussie metal bands. Seems to have a lot of Aussie metal bands that you see, and so I just thought I might spotlight a couple of older ones that might have been missed by people. So a bit of that, pretty much collection updating and the like. Hoping to do a bit of gig review action in the next week. I'm going to like 3 gigs next week. First gigs for a while, so it's like Hellhammer, Viscera, Infest, and Thou. So weird range of bands to see in 3 nights. So I'm hoping to slap together something there. Take my fancy camera along. So yeah.
Last one I saw on your channel was the Osmos. Your favorites from Osmos. Yeah. That was a fun video.
Yeah, I like doing the favorite record label ones because sometimes you kind of miss what stuff actually came out on that label. Like, you know, the 2 grind bands on there I didn't even realize were on Osmos. It's like, oh, cool.
Right.
Something that isn't screeching black metal that I can do. Cool.
Well, for those of you that aren't familiar with Mendicant Media, the link is in the description, and go subscribe, please. He has a great way of discussing music. He shows a lot of stuff that I don't always see around. Between him and Simon,
a ton of good stuff.
They've got Australia covered very well. Even though there's other Australian and New Zealand YouTubers, go check out Mendicant Media for sure. Right up there at the top of the good stuff.
Cheers.
But usually tonight when we invite people, we often extend the courtesy of them deciding what we talk about. Hopefully we can all agree on it and go from there. And Geoff said, hey, let's talk about favorite Australian bands, which I'll say that when I get there. But Geoff, obviously it's funny because I notice, it's a bit of a distance away from almost everything. So, and the people that are into metal music, I'm sure it is with all forms of art and stuff. The Australians are really proud of their scene. I don't know a ton of Australians, but the ones I do know, they have a lot of Australian pride. I think you kind of fit into this category as well. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. I mean, part of it is, the distance. So we don't always get a lot of bands touring. Of late, it's been quite a bit better, but back in the 80s and 90s, there was very few international bands toured, so it was pretty much I guess I'll go see some local bands. So the local scenes were pretty damn strong. I'm not sure about it, the WA side of things, the other side of the country, but they do have a very insular sort of scene that hardly gets seen. But yeah, the East Coast, there was a hell of a lot of bands and very keen. I think a lot of it is there was a lot of crossover in the scenes as well. Like, it wasn't just only thrash bands or only death metal bands. There was always a lot of mixed bills. Like when you go back to the old Slaughter Lord gigs and Mortal Sin, they were playing with the Hard-Ons and Mass Appeal, like punk bands and so on. So it was always a good sort of melting pot, you could say. And same with the Melbourne scene, they had a lot of guys in black metal bands or also in death metal bands, and a lot of variety there, which I think really makes it stronger.
Yeah, it's such an insulated scene. I can see, here in my town, if we lost a drummer or couldn't find a drummer, well, you just don't have a drummer anymore. But it's cool knowing that. I mean, just a little bit of the sniffing around I was doing in preparation for this is all these guys are in multiple bands. They're sharing members. Hey, George G, thanks a bunch.
Thank you, George.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
But and even the pop music, although bands like Men at Work and bands like In Excess, they achieved kind of worldwide stardom. I mean, I remember as a youngster, Men at Work was a big deal for me. I loved that band. I loved them. I can't remember the damn name of the red, the yellow and black cover. It has down. Yeah, there was a huge band for me.
Yeah, well, we had a very good pub rock sort of scene, like
Yeah.
not the metal side of it, but especially in the 80s and late 70s as well, there was a lot of different bands. There was bands that probably could have been a lot huger if they moved overseas, like Contreras was like a rock band that legendary in Australia. You don't get much more legendary in Australia, but I doubt that many people overseas has heard them. I think they played in like Europe a bit, but not a giant amount.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Midnight Oil, they probably should have been a lot larger as well. It was good that In Excess made it and they pushed it, but yeah, they all started from similar hard work ethic of just smashing it out in the pubs and clubs.
I think you can thank my sister for single-handedly making In Excess happen. That was one of her bands when she was a kid.
Thanks, Mel. God, I couldn't remember. The older I get, the more I forget shit. It's driving me crazy. Anyway, also AC/DC. I know you mentioned that around Simon, and his eyes roll back in his head. And I know they're kind of a immigrated band to Australia, but everybody connects them to Australia.
They were massive as well. I mean, it's a band that was one of my early ones, you could say. I own very little of their stuff, but they're huge. Well, I did used to be irritated by them. There was a show on Australian TV that ran like all night of film clips, and it was all types of film clips. It was just like MTV, but without hosts or anything like that. It was just clip after clip. And they always used to play heavy metal at like 2 a.m. or something. So pretty regularly, I'd stay up Friday night, really late.
Yeah.
And it's always irritating because they put on an AC/DC live gig from like, I don't know if it was If You Want Blood or that sort of later Bond sort of era. It's where the songs are like 15-minute long versions of their normally 3-minute long songs. And yeah, they'd play this for like an hour before they get to the the Napalm Death stuff that I wanted to see, or Slayer or whatever. So for a while I used to hate AC/DC, but
yeah.
not anymore.
I think I was in that realm too until I really fell in love with the Bond era. I really because I mean Back in Black and all the stuff, all their hits, they just drove them down our throat here, whether it was MTV or the radio. I mean, it was everywhere. You couldn't get away from AC/DC, it seems.
It's a bugger though. I've still never seen them live though. Really kind of regret not going to see him.
I think you're running out of time. If you want to see it, you got to better do it. Angus
is looking
pretty
ticking.
grim. Yeah, Angus is looking pretty grim up there.
Of course, he's looked pretty grim for like 40 years. So
yeah. Well, cool. And Geoff, if you do want, you are able to talk to people in the chat too. You just have to go to click on that. You should sign you. It should sign you in, I think. So. But yeah, well, we might as well get started. We kind of already gone over your history with the music there, so why don't you get us started? Pull one, and we'll all do one and go in a circle here.
Well, I'm a local Canberra boy, so I got to pull Alchemist. I know you guys had that, but this is their second album, Lunar Sphere, which is a complete masterpiece in my book. This is a band that I've seen a lot of times, 80 plus probably times at the least. So yeah, they're a legendary band. But yeah, this album is their second album. It's just perfect. They're psychedelic death metal. It got a bit mellower as time went on. It was a bit sort of smoothed out, you could say. But this is probably their peak craziness level. The album before that, which was like A Jar of Kingdom, was still a little, work in progress, you could say. But Lunar Sphere, they really hit the mark. The album afterwards, Spirit Text, bloody good as well. Unfortunately, these were released on like a local Australian label and don't appear to have received any overseas action at all. They signed a Relapse after the album after Spirit Text.
Yeah, I've got 2 CDs that Relapse put out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're rippers, but yeah, it's a real shame that Lunar Sphere. I mean, you could probably buy it on Discogs somewhere, but. And I was seeing like podgy Russian bootlegs listed of it as well. But yeah, they only had one vinyl, which was like the last album. So, but yeah, this live, there's heaps of slide guitar in this as well. They used like lots of psychedelic, really high pitched sort of stuff as well that worked beautifully. And yeah, many memories of seeing them live. Sometimes on various illegal substances that certainly helped with the psychedelic side of things.
Right.
there's a lot of good stuff with theirs on YouTube if you want to check them out live. But yeah, that Lunasphere album is just a masterpiece. You know, I mean, the first song, Soul Returns, like 10 minutes long or something. That just starts very intense. Like, the vocals sound a lot better on this than the first album, but yeah, amazing band. Totally underrated. I think I remember one of them saying that when Relapse finally signed them, they were sort of like, why the hell didn't we sign them earlier, kind of thing, because it was a sort of similar sort of style that Relapse would have worked quite well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's funny they didn't reissue those earlier albums, you know, because they would do that as well, you know.
Yeah, Relapse put out like a compilation somewhere. This one, Embryonics, which has got like it's sort of a best of and has some of their demo stuff as well, which is definitely worth hearing. But yeah, it's a bugger that I don't know who owns the rights to it. If there's enough demand, unfortunately, which makes me cry, because there should be a lot more demand. Because amazing band.
Yeah,
right on.
And Alchemist were pretty important on the Australian scene too. They were really involved with, was it the Metal in the Brain festival? That was a big deal.
Metal for the Brain was
Metal for the Brain. Thanks. Yeah.
It was big in the brain. It's not ideal for the brain, but yeah.
Yeah, you probably don't want the metal in the brain.
No, it was a benefit festival that the Arm and Angel guys started it for one of their mates got sort of punched out the front of a nightclub trying to break up a fight and got pretty bad brain injury out of that. So he was mates with Joel Armand, drummer. And yeah, they set up a gig that started pretty small, I got to say, but it made its way up. Fiddle around with my flyers, a flyer for it somewhere. But yeah, I mean, it turned into like, you know, massive.
Do you know how many years that ran, Geoff?
Yeah, it ran from 91 to 2006. That's the first one.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Cool. Armored Alchemist, Cursor, Seed, some legendary old bands. So it started with just 6 local Canberra bands, and then worked its way up. And then by the end, it was, you know, a big stage and a smaller stage as well. And yeah, you know, like 30 plus band sort of size festival. It was the biggest festival in Australia for quite a while. They did have issues with like insurance. After a while, it was getting really expensive. It was just a period where there was issues with, you know, there's much bigger festivals that weren't metal festivals called the Big Day Out in Australia. That was, you know, popular bands, and yeah, they had some, you know, deaths and bad things happen to them, so insurance just went through the roof. So, but yeah, after about 3 or 4 years, the Alchemist guys took over because Arm and Angel split up. So. Continued on. I think they did like one gig in Queensland and one in Perth as well, in Western Australia. But yeah, I went to all the Canberra ones at any rate because I'm old. So.
Yeah, I remember it kind of had to wind down because of some of those issues you mentioned. It was in the press that was like there was going to be the last year, and which was sad to hear because it was a big deal there. Very cool.
Yeah, and I think it was partly as well because they got kind of sick of doing it. Because all the bands would whinge about where they were on the bill. They're like, I'm more popular than that band. Why aren't we higher? Kind of.
Oh, yeah. Putting those kind of festivals together is a nightmare for the people that have to do it. You constantly have bands complaining, bands dropping out at the last second, and then you got to scramble to find a replacement. It's a million things that nobody in the audience appreciates that those people had to deal with to put together just one show. And then you do it for like 15 or 16 years in a row. And the burnout could be real. I can imagine for sure.
I've started writing for a upcoming video of my Metal for the Brain memories, which are pretty friggin' hazy, I've got to say. It won't be I remember every band from this gig at all. It'll be, I can vaguely remember this band at one of the festivals. I'm not really sure.
Geoff, do you have a fan on in the background or something? It might be blowing on your mic. People are saying they're hearing a low rumble in the background. I don't know. I think it's yours. No. It might be just the fan from your laptop. Okay.
Yeah, possibly. It's all right.
That's all right.
Nope,
Okay,
it's all good.
it's not syncing the stream or anything. It's fine. It's just it's audible.
Yeah.
It sounds like a fan or something. But all right, good start. Got us rolling. Alan, you're up next. Your thoughts on Australian metal?
Yeah, well, like Geoff said, Australia didn't have a huge scene through the 80s, but there were always, some notable bands if you dug around for them. I want to start chronologically, more or less, just work my way from older stuff towards newer stuff. Australia's obviously become known for its more extreme metal scene, which I do not know as much about. That's, I'm very much, Geoff can cover that stuff. He's the authority there. I'll cover a real grab bag of stuff tonight as we go. Going to start very simple, very basic. We've already talked about it a little bit, but just to expand on it a little bit. Yeah, your history of hard music from Australia, of course, has to go through AC/DC. I pulled TNT simply because it's the one album that never got an international release from their early days. Which is only partly true, because 7 of the 9 songs on this ended up being on the international version of what most people think of as the original AC/DC album. But yeah, it was just cobbled together from the first 2 albums that had been released in Australia. The other reason I picked TNT, it's the album that kind of solidified their sound. The debut is good, I like it, but it's very primitive in lots of ways. They still have members switching instruments. There's still a lot of different people contributing on that one. TNT is where you really start, having the classic lineup. Evans and Phil Rudd come in. Everyone kind of sticks to their own instrument. Angus is sticking to the leads and such. So they really kind of start to get the classic AC/DC sound down on this one. And of course, would go on to fame and fortune with later albums. But I always like this one. This one has a lot of really good tracks from their early days that stayed in their live sets essentially forever. So it kind of speaks to the early quality. And yes, I know most folks are not going to consider this heavy metal. I'm fine with it being in the hard rock category, but it's important enough. It brought enough attention to Australia, got people there excited. You can only imagine how many young musicians it inspired who went on to be in heavier bands a few years down the road. And just a little trivia note for the night. This people talk about, like these old Albert pressings of AC/DC stuff a lot. This is kind of the classic Albert label. But this is not a first pressing. The red ones like this, they have this kind of red-orange color, are the New Zealand press from around 1981. If you really want the first presses, the Albert label should be kind of a deep blue color, and it should have a little outline cartoon of a kangaroo on one side of the label. You'll find blue labeled Albert ones all the time where people are like, oh yeah, this is the original pressing. If it doesn't have a kangaroo, it is not the original pressing. It's a second pressing that was probably done around 1977 or so. It's still cool to have one of those. I've got 1 or 2 of those from some of the early albums. But if you really want the first version from 75, it's got to be blue and it's got to have the roo, or it will not do. And that is your collector tip. These pressings are still really nice to have. A lot of versions of TNT come with a gatefold cover, some don't. So you can also look at those variations. A lot of collectible stuff in the early AC/DC catalog. So yeah, they deserved a little more of a shout out, and we'll move into some heavier stuff after this one. But Marty, what do you want to show for your... Sorry, go ahead.
This was the Aussie version, I think, wasn't it? Of
Yep.
Dirty Deeds.
Yep.
I
With
like that cover way better. It's so kind of ridiculous, but
Yeah,
it is really, really crazy. Yeah. I never was nuts about the
back as well.
Yeah, I was never nuts about the international cover for that one with the little black tape on everyone's eyes. I think, it's okay, but that one is much funner that you just showed.
I think that one I got for $2 at a second-hand shop or something or other. It's pretty thrash,
nice.
I think. But
yeah, I've got a copy of that one too. I almost pulled that one, but I was like, I'll pull TNT. Nobody ever talks about TNT.
It's nearly 50 years old, so I'm not that surprised.
Yeah, and those records got played a ton, so it's hard to find them in nice condition. But yep, that's where I'm going to start here with on the timeline. Marty, what you going to start with?
Well, like I said, picking stuff for this show tonight. I'm greatly deficient in my Australian metal collection. I've got some pretty obvious things, but for me, AC/DC was my early connection. Of course, pop music. You mentioned Men at Work, stuff you hear on MTV. Yeah, and honestly, until you're getting to know and working with Simon, and you start paying a little bit more attention to other parts of the world, and we were having a discussion the other day. I'm like, oh, did you see this guy has a YouTube channel that shows his record store? Have you been there? And then he sent me a picture of the map with his Google Maps, how long it would take him to drive there. I said, road trip, you should go have a road trip. It's like a 24-hour drive. I guess being a dumb American, I just never really realized how enormous Australia is, but it's just as big as the States. It's huge.
It is a continent, so yep.
Yep.
Big.
And I'm sure there's no roads that go right through the center of it. You probably have to go around, don't you, Geoff?
To get to Townsville, it's reasonably sort of straight up.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like most of it really is on the east coast and sort of the lower bit. But yeah, to get to Western Australia, it's a couple of days drive. It's just all the way across the map, which I haven't done. My missus has and said it took a while. And I mean, there's the Northern Territory, the very top middle bit is even more remote. It's pretty warm up that way as well, like all year round. Getting up to the tropics. But yeah, it'd be even further to drive to Townsville for me than Simon as well, because I'm still 4 hours below Simon. So yeah, it'll take a while.
You better have an awesome collection when you get there, right? But for me, I harvested everything I have that I can think of that I have, and I decided to just kind of pick my oldest title, which I think was probably, judging from all the bands that the members went on to be in, it's kind of an influential band, and that would be Slaughterlord. Thrash Till Death. This is 86 through 87. It's a compilation of, I don't know, I'm assuming the demos. They only had a couple demos in this compilation before they disbanded, and members of this band went on to be in Mortal Sin, Nazgul, and Sadistic Exekution, among a few others which I had not heard of. So I didn't include. But this is for 1986, I think, is when this. I don't know when this comp came out. It wasn't 1986, but I mean, for all this early, all this material is from that era. It's pretty raw. A little bit black metal tinge thrash. I mean, it's got a bit of a creator vibe. It's got a first wave black metal vibe to it. It's really good ripping stuff. It's just always been. And once I was looking through the collection, stumbled across it, I'm like, God, I haven't listened to this in ages. And that's kind of a shame because this shit's awesome. It's really well done, fast, aggressive. This is the type of thrash I like. Dark, evil, good. So yeah. I started on the journey tonight with Slaughterlord, the Thrash Till Death, 1986 through 1987. So there we go.
That's a ripper. I'm a bit young to have seen those guys live. I would have been young and very scared if I happened to go into one of their gigs. But they played some pretty big gigs in Sydney, I think. And
really?
Yeah, as Jack Half a Prayer just pointed out, the drummer of Slaughterlord, Steve Hughes, is stand-up comedian now. Does very good pieces. He does this brilliant one about how being gay is very tough. I won't spoil the full thing of it, but his routine on that is just gold. It's beautifully done. But yeah, he was a drummer in Naul as well, which is like nasty black metal band that I'll get to in time. But yeah, that pretty legendary band in the whole scene. I think they influenced plenty of overseas ones as well. I think Chuck Keller or whatever his name is from various bands is a big fan, I think.
Oh, so, from Order from Chaos and Ares Kingdom. Yeah. Right on. Well, I figured that would get the ball rolling on my side. So you're up again, George. Geoff, what you got? Too many G people in my life.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I get Greg a lot anyway. So
Then George just was in the comments, and that stuck in my head for some reason. Anyway.
Or I get people at work sending me emails with Geoff with a J, and it's like, my name's right. Get that wrong. Anyway. Next band I'm going to pick is Addictive. This is an older Sydney thrash band. Go back to the past a bit.
Look at that
pretty
cover.
much the worst album cover I own.
I love it.
That's partly why I wanted to put it on. It's not really one of my favorite albums of all time, but it's an early piece of Aussie metal history. They're a Sydney thrash band. Only did that album, I think one not very good album after that as well, but they were pretty legendary for this demo, Ward 74. And they're not too different to Mortal Sin, just pretty basic sort of thrash, kind of Bay Area sort of style. A bit grittier sounding, which probably didn't help when they're trying to break through in the scene. But they were one of the very first bands that I saw. This is a flyer for a gig that was my first proper sort of local gig. Like this is from like 1989. It's a very old Alchemist. Like my first gig was Metallica on the Justice tour, playing Mortal Sin. So that was a good start. But a couple of months later was that gig, and it was a pretty ridiculous one for the Canberra scene. It was like 500 young metalheads just going berserk. It was in the early days, so everyone was just keen for every single thing. There was no like standing up the back for one band. It was just stage diving galore and 6 rows of headbangers at the front kind of style. It was a classic era. So Addictive are always got a special for me from that point of view. I think they're one of the guitarists later joined Mortal Sin, and the drummer was the original Psychrise drummer, sort of excellent death metal band from Canberra. So they were pretty good, but just faded. I think the second album took a while to come out, and it really wasn't as flash as that first one. So there is other versions of this. Like they re-released it on CD without this glorious cover. I think it was a big mistake because the other one was just stupid design. They really, not that means much, but I was so pleased to get that in my collection finally.
Those type of covers, though, you always flip it over, and it's always the back cover that sells you. Of course, we all like stupid art, but you look at the back cover, a bunch of dudes that look the part thrashing, like, this is going to be killer. It's kind of a telltale sign it's worth buying when the cover's that bad. Like EXE Stricken by Might. What the hell?
Oh, yeah.
Or even their second album. Ugh. Anyway. Awesome.
Infernal Majesty is probably another one.
None Shall Defy. Oh my God. Yeah.
But looking at the back cover, it'd make me not want to buy that.
Yeah, that was even worse. Yeah. Like, what are they? Glam guys? What is this? Yeah.
There's a reason nobody ever heard of that band for a long time.
Which is sad because that shit rips.
Oh yeah.
I bought it for $3 used like in a just record store on a lark because I'm just like, well, it's some kind of metal for $3. I'll find out what. And I was surprised.
All right, Professor Dundee, what you got? What's next on your list?
Let's see. Well, Geoff just mentioned them, and they're on my list. So we'll jump ahead a few years to there were a few Australian thrash exports throughout the 80s. And the one that most people seem to at least have heard of, if they never actually heard any of their music, was Mortal Sin. So I'm going to pull several things on my phone tonight because several of these I've only got digital copies of now. But Mortal Sin. This one's the debut, Mayhemic Destruction.
This is
and that is yes, that's the reissue that has they kind of, and it's nice they kind of kept the same theme for the cover, but just upgraded a bit from this old original. Mortal Sin was one of the few Australian metal exports that you could actually come across in America without too much trouble. I used to always
see Polygram.
Yeah, they got some stuff released through Vertigo. So I would stumble into some of their various things here and there at record stores and record shows. But for those unfamiliar, Mayhemic Destruction, they pull a lot of influence from the thrash scene of the day. It's no surprise you put this on. There's a strong Metallica influence, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets era Metallica. There's hints of German thrash in there, some Creator, some Destruction. They do it reasonably well. I don't think they would ever be considered as a contender for the big four of thrash, in the States or in Germany. A lot of people kind of, will often use the phrase like, second tier thrash in a nice way. Not saying that, oh, they're not good enough, just that, they would have been a step down, from some of those other bands. They did the style well, just not strong enough to be in the exact same breath as, a Metallica or something. But for example, a lot of reviews and stuff you'll see will mention bands like Law's Rocket, the later Law's Rocket when they got more thrashy. But Mortal Sin was kind of somewhere between the Law's Rocket and Metallica level stuff. It's a good album. It's kind of short. I think it's 6 songs and an instrumental. But yeah, if you like those slightly obscure thrash titles that are easy to overlook, and you never checked out Mortal Sin's debut, Mayhemic Destruction, it's a good one. I'm not familiar with the later 2. They only did 3 albums in their original run. They kind of, like most thrash bands, they kind of petered out in the early 90s. Now, they came back together and did some other stuff later, and I don't know anything about that either. But, Geoff, how are I'm assuming the second and third albums. Are those equally good?
The second one, Face of Despair, that Marty showed, that's a ripper as well. It's marginally cleaner sounding than Mayhemic Destruction, but it's not really that hard. The third one, I think it's Every Dog Has Its Day or something.
Yeah.
I don't own that one, and I don't recall it being particularly good. It's probably been 20 or 30 years since I heard it, but yeah. And then
the title and the cover art for that one are iffy.
Yeah, they did have a comeback in the early 2000s or something or other, and put out another album there that it was pretty good. I seem to recall. I don't really remember it, but Face of Despair is definitely worth checking out as well. It's similar sort of quality songwriting, slightly cleaner. I wanted to show it off. I actually don't own that on record, but I have a tape somewhere that I couldn't find, unfortunately, that I bought in Indonesia on a school trip for dodgy Indonesian bootleg for $1. So
oh, cool.
It was always good enough.
Yeah. This is the cover for the third one that Geoff just mentioned, folks. The Every Dog Has a Day, which has got big scratches on the cover. So yeah. And strangely enough, too, they actually had several 12-inch singles and EPs that got pressed on vinyl, and those were apparently widely circulated because, again, I would come across a lot of those kind of things, throughout the 90s. You'd find them all over the place. So they definitely had some circulation in the States, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, they were massive in Australia as well. It's a pretty good documentary, I think, on YouTube somewhere of, I don't know what it was called, but it was on kind of the girlfriends, because there was this huge scene of, women that loved Mortal Sin as well, because they were kind of pretty as well, and tank tops and so on.
Where are they? Let's see. Let's investigate that hypothesis, shall we?
Hey, they're no glam band by any means, but they weren't ugly. Well, maybe. I'll have a look at the back cover there.
Oh yeah, that's better. That's better.
Yep.
Buffed hair everywhere. So,
okay.
Yeah. They were massive. Really popular, and they went down a treat with Metallica because it was a perfect pairing anyway. So, first band I saw live, very happy with that.
Oh, nice.
I actually worked with the niece of one of the guitarists, which was weird. She just one time said, "You like Mortal Sin?" I'm like, "Yeah." Oh, that's my uncle.
That's cool.
All right,
Marty, on to you for number 2.
Well, right around the same time as Slaughter Lord was happening, this guy was happening. Hobbs, Angel of Death. This is a High Roller reissue. I did have an original radio promo, but I must have gave it to a friend after I got this. But one thing you notice right away, the Australian thrash scene has got an aggression to it, and this is pretty ripping thrash, to be honest. It's it's a very unassuming cover. I would always see this sitting in the shop on tape and be like, I don't know, man. That just looks, I don't know. Just a look about it. But then when I finally ended up snagging that radio promo years later, I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? This shit rips. And it does. It totally rips. Really savage. There's one or two songs on here that are a little more subdued, but then it's right back in the aggression. And Hobbs, he sings on some of it, and a couple of the other guys do some singing on it. So there's some trading off of vocals, but you don't really think much about it. But you listen to what's going on in the music, you can hear where bands like Destroyer, 666, and other bands from that ilk they got their inspiration from the tunes and the stuff that was happening on this album right here. So we'll get to D666 later. I couldn't not talk about them tonight. I mean, you just can't. Yeah, you just can't. But yeah, Hobbs, Angel of Death. I don't have anything. There was an album afterwards, 2 albums afterwards. After he got back going again. In '95 it was Inheritance, and then Heaven Bled in 2016. And of course, he has passed away, so rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hobbs, Angel of Death. What do you guys think of that?
One of the most Australian possible pictures.
Let me blow you up here so people can... Yeah, show it again. Now you're blowing up.
It's just so Aussie. I mean, aside from the fact it's the old standing around with your instruments, not on a stage or in a rehearsal room.
The drummer's at the ready, though. He knows that those roos can come after him. He's got his sticks ready. I'm going to poke them fucker in the eye.
That could be dangerous.
It can be.
Yeah. They were pretty damn legendary band. I mean, it's total Sodom worship and a lot of other styles. But yeah, songs like Crucifixion Live, that was just, top notch. He went through a lot. I don't think he actually played at Giant Amount back in the day. Possibly some shows. I think I remember seeing ones with him with Martyr. But I never actually heard his original band, Tyrus, that he was also in. It's just never had anything of theirs. I think there's a compilation of like the Hobbs demos as well that's pretty damn decent as well. But yeah.
All right. Geoff, you're back.
All right. What's next? All right. I'm going to go with Mighty Abramelin. This is a death metal band from Melbourne. They've actually just announced a brand new album, so it'll be out shortly. So yeah, this is their first album. Very heavy death metal. They originally were Acheron, which is like a demo. I'll show it off so you forked out before. They're early death metal band. Really heavy vocals. Simon, the vocalist, has just got one of the best growls, and live can just do it amazing. I just was always blown away. He'd hold the mic like down there. There was no cupping or anything. It just just brutal, intense sort of band. I had to show off this. They're pretty influential in the early days of death metal because they did play a lot in Melbourne, and they also played in Canberra a couple of dates. I just had to show this.
Oh, that's an awesome flyer.
Cool.
With Jesus holding a skateboard with his anyway. But yeah, it was these two amazing gigs that they did in Canberra with Armin Angel and Alchemist. And yeah, they got damn good crowds, and that's where I first heard Disembowelment as well. So that was a damn fine time. But all that stuff was released on this compilation box, which is well worth checking out. Their later album, Never Enough Snuff, they had a big break of like 15 years or something or other, but the back, bloody heavy as hell. So yeah, just pretty straightforward death metal. Good solos, damn good drumming, but just really, really heavy and very gory. They got in trouble at one point for I think it's for this album, came with lyrics that are a little dodgy and explicit. So the reissue, I think, had no lyrics. A few Aussie bands have been in trouble over the years. And I mean, we did have a brief period in the early 90s where a few overseas bands got banned, like I think a Cannibal Corpse album, Pungent Stench, I think being called Buttering, and like Dismember, like an Everflowing Stream, and what was the fourth one? There was one other one. They all got like Autopsy, I think, actually Unspeakable. They all got banned for a while. Like our customs people just went, no, it's not coming in. But all right, I managed to get it all, so good.
Right on. It's funny you mentioned the problem with dodgy lyrics. I just saw a thing today that Gen Z is having a problem with Cannibal Corpse lyrics. After 40 years, they're trying to cancel Cannibal Corpse again because of their lyrics. It's hilarious. You got to be kidding me. But whatever. People need to toughen up a little bit. Anyway, Alan, what's your next pick?
All right, I want to skip slightly ahead in the chronology and talk about one of my favorite bands, kind of one of my pet bands. Armored Angel, of course, has to be in the conversation. Jeff's got the flag up behind him.
I've never seen you show that one.
His flag matches my shirt. That's why I picked this one tonight. I tried to pick something a little different. And Armored Angel actually does go back quite a ways. Their first demo came out in '85. So they were there for a good chunk of the 80s scene. Now, that first demo sounds very different. It's a lot more of like an Iron Maiden and maybe like early Noise Records kind of influence to the sound. So it's an interesting demo. But, the lineup's also different. They disappeared back, into the Outback for a few years and came back, with a revamped lineup, with Lucy and the Green Brothers, and started doing, again, kind of very heavy thrash. Like you said, Marty, a lot of the thrash bands there did tend towards the heavier end of the spectrum, and Armored Angel was no exception. They did a couple of really good demos. And then by the early 90s, they were definitely getting a lot more into a death metal vibe with a really unique sound. They're often compared a bit to Bolt Thrower, which is apt. They don't have the punkiness that early Bolt Thrower did, really, but they were really good at having this kind of dark, occult-fueled, very mysterious sound. And their riffing style and all was almost trancey. You could really get into that kind of. It wasn't a groove metal thing at all, but you could definitely kind of get into the riffs they played a lot. They only sadly got to do one album, and that was much later with yet another lineup. But the demos they did like in the late 80s and the two EPs through the early and mid 90s are some of the best heavy metal I've ever heard. I found them through tape trading way back in the day, and slowly picked things up here and there where I could. But the one I'm showing here is just Hymns of Hate. It's just a anthology collection. So for folks that don't have the stuff, Jeff's got all the cool paraphernalia there. But Hymns of Hate is
way too many flyers. It's ridiculous.
Oh, that's awesome though. Those are cool. Yeah, Hymns of Hate's just an easy way to get pretty much their entire catalog in one place. I think there's one demo that's not on here. They don't like to put the 85 demo on these kind of Armored Angel anthologies because it sounds so different to everything else they did. But all the classic stuff is on here on 2 CDs. So it's a great way to check out the band. Definitely for fans of, things like Bolt Thrower, fans, I think, of like Eternus and So the Night Became would probably dig Armored Angel style quite a bit. Just one of those great bands that never, quite got over the top, but they were a huge part. Jeff's shown tons of flyers. He's already mentioned how important they were with some of the early festivals. They were one of those early kind of founding fathers for Australian extreme metal, and I love everything they did. Just an excellent band. Wish they could have gotten a break. I was really happy that they did right about the time they broke up. They got covered in Metal Maniacs. They did the little section. What was it called, Marty? Where they would do maybe a half-page blurb on sort of unknown bands. Most of them were more up-and-coming type bands. Was that Fast Forward or?
Yeah, Fast Forward. Yeah.
The Fast Forward section, yeah. And Jeff Wagner got in touch with Lucy and gave them a really, really nice kind of write-up, which unfortunately by the time it was published ended up being posthumous for the band. But it was still cool that they at least got that one piece of sort of mainstream heavy metal exposure outside of Australia. So kind of an epitaph, but better than nothing. So had to absolutely mention Armored Angel. If there were 5 heavy metal bands I could recommend for anybody to go check out that they never likely heard, Armored Angel is on that list. They really are that good.
Oh yeah, without doubt. Kings of the scene, and because they're from Canberra, I saw them a number of times. I got to say, I don't like too much, but yeah.
You want to re-show some of that memorabilia real quick?
Yeah, well, I have a feeling they didn't actually. I didn't go to this gig, unfortunately.
That would be
still
cool if they did.
loudest gig that most people went to, but I have a feeling Armored didn't actually play.
Someone was saying Lemmy
yeah.
was seen on stage wearing an Armored Angel shirt over the years, so maybe
Really?
they did.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think they drove them there. I just have this weird feeling they didn't actually play. But again, I wasn't at the gig, but they certainly did play this one. This is the Morbid Angel tour, and this is one of the more important early sort of tours for Australian extreme music. As Morbid Angel, Blessed of the Sick tour, so God tier lives. The amount of killer bands that they played with. I mean, the Canberra one was Alchemist and Psychrise, so that was bloody excellent. But other ones had Christ Bait, Necrotomy, Corpse Molestation, Sadistic Exekution played with them, I think. So Misery, just legendary sort of stuff. So, and yeah, they toured with plethora as well when they came. I think they did the whole tour in '93 or something around that. And also got this. This is their old merchandise sheet.
Oh, cool.
Which I don't have to show it. But yeah, unfortunately, I never did see them back in the day when the first demo, it's called Baptism in Blood. Never saw that era. Only ever saw the green sort of era onwards. So I've never even seen an original of that demo, that first demo either. Not even my mates that saw them back then have that. So
I've seen one copy of it in 20 years. I've seen
yeah.
exactly one copy. Nobody has it, and it's on. It's actually, if anyone wants to see, it's on Discogs, and they want just a kind of insane price for it. Even I won't pay that for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as much as I would like to have it, it's the only one of. I think it's the only one of their old original demos I don't have. There may be one other I'm missing on cassette, but
don't think you've got. Have you got that one?
Is that the 95 one?
Yeah, the one with like
Mhm.
reacts and so on it. Yeah,
Yep.
that one.
Yep. That one's
I don't
quite
think
good.
they sold it much, but Joel gave me that one, so I was like,
Oh, nice. Yep.
which is handy because that was the highest, most expensive tape on my Discogs for one of the videos that I did of my 20 most expensive or most valuable things on Discogs. That was number one for some reason. So
Wow,
it's
nice.
pretty rare.
Yeah, it was not circulated much at all.
Do you have a proper copy of that one now?
I think I do. I have to double check on that one. I've got Communion, Stigmartyr, Wings of Death, and I think I've got that one on cassette. I may be missing that one. I know I do not have a cassette copy of Mysterium, but I've got the old CD copy of that one.
I don't have tape versions of either Stigmata or Mysterium because I bought the CDs when
I've got the
they came out,
Stigmartyr,
so.
but yeah, I've never seen Mysterium on cassette.
Yeah, afterwards, send me your address, Alan, and I'll send you some flyers. I have
cool. That'd be great.
many novels of flyers. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. If you don't mind copying some of them, that'd be cool to have.
I'll be seeing Joel, like the drummer's newish band, Witch Skull, next week as well. They're supporting Hellhammer, so
Cool.
pass on your good words.
Absolutely, yes. I've championed that band since I heard them in the late '90s, and always will. Yeah, they are. There are certain bands you just kind of feel like, this is one of those bands that was meant for me. And Armored Angels on that list.
And I mean, live they're massive. 2 giant double Marshall stacks in not a very big space, and it's just sheer power.
Make them all suffer. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
with their sound and style, and I can only imagine it would be crushing in any live kind of setting like you just described.
Yeah, I mean the later lineup with Yuri from Psychrise was pretty good as well. But
I like that material. It's not as
quite
strong,
grabbed me
but
as much. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that. I made a video about them a few years ago, just for fun, just a little tribute video, and Yuri actually responded to it. He's just like, "Thanks, you're one of the few people that's had something nice to say about my era of the band." Apparently, it wasn't as popular, but yeah. So he was kind of chuffed that someone at least gave his recordings a thumbs up along with the old classics.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, fantastic band. But yes, I've geeked out on them long enough. Marty is waiting to show us his next one. So Marty, take it away, sir.
All right. Well, we'll start. I have one little connection with Australia underground scene, and it all started with me receiving this promo. It's sent to me by Andrew from the band. Misery's Omen. It's got their contact info on the inside. It's total CDR printed out deal. It was a cassette tape they released. And it was early on in Wormgear's publishing career. Might have been the second issue I reviewed this for. Blown away by it. And shortly in around the year 2000, started doing binder and recordings. So I reached out to him, and also this 7-inch to worship stone gods. There's the boys, Andrew, who went on to be in a bunch of bands, which I'm going to show some of them later. He's also in Johnny Touch.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And
it took us 55 minutes, but we got there.
yeah. The bass player, you will know, Damon Good. He's been in a bunch of stuff. The newest band on 20 Buck Spin. Oh my God, why can't it? Something Ceremony.
Void Ceremony.
No, is that the name of it? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an amazing bass player. A lot of fretless bass work. He's like the Steve DeGorgio of Australia. And he was in this band. Well, I took these two releases and we released it. The second release on Binder and Recordings is this CD right here. It just includes the promo and the 7-inch essentially. But yeah, I've always been blown away by this band. They're just a weird blackened, twisted blend of dark metal, some doomy type stuff. It's mostly dark metal, but it's just really odd. And then sometime later they put out Hope Dies, which love this cover. I don't know if it's as good as the early stuff, but it's still a really good, unique album. It's on Worship Him. Is that Worship something? I can't read it. My eyes are so shot. But yeah, Misery's Omen, a band that just never really, got a whole lot of love, it seems like. It's a bummer because they were completely unique. And that's probably why they didn't get a lot of, everybody likes to, golf clap to the really super unique bands, but they just don't go the distance, it seems like. It just seems like that people would rather listen to whatever, something that's simple and easy. Not that this is tough to digest. I mean, remember, Damon, I think, went on to be in Stargazer. I think he's in that. And that's not necessarily easy to digest music, but they're still doing it. They're still crushing. Yeah. But yeah,
it's a good point, Marty. You're right. A lot of people, they'll applaud the more, innovative band, but they'll go out and buy the tickets and all the merchandise for the, Cannibal Corpse clone band.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's
possibly those vocals might turn some people off. I think it's pretty crazy, sort of screaming in parts.
Which I love that.
Bethlehem style. Oh, yeah.
I love that. I mean, Bethlehem Suicide is one of my favorite. It's one of my top 30 favorite albums. I love that thing. It's just twisted and sick and cool. And that's what I got out of Misery's Omen. They just really put the country on the map for me. And I never really heard any other band in that area that sounded like them. Other than maybe a little bit of weirdness in another band that Andrew was involved with. I'm going to show next, and then we'll just go from there. But, Geoff, you're back.
All right. Next band I'm going to do is pretty legendary Melbourne. I think they're originally from Bendigo. It's like a town near Melbourne. Damaged. Do Not Spit is this is their first album. They're a kind of weird combination of sort of death metal, grind, thrash, and groove, but I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just this very weird blend of styles. I think after a while they were on Rotten Records, like the DRI guitarist label that put out Acid Bath and stuff as well. This is their first album, which I have some issues with this in the sense that I saw these guys back in the day, and they were like just after this came out, and they were about 1.5 times the speed of that album live. And I have a recording of the live gig that I saw them at a legendary old Canberra venue called the Terrace Bar. And I only listen to that version, so whenever I listen to the album, it's just kind of slower. But yeah, their drummer Matt has been in a lot of bands like Destroy 666. He toured with Sadistic Exekution when they went to Europe, and he's been King Parrot, a million bands that he's been in. You look him up on Metal Archives, and it's like, oh, okay. He was in Hobbs Angel of Death, I think, for a while, and Blood Duster, and probably Abramelin as well. So yeah, that it was very unique style. The singer is kind of one of those a million words a second sort of guys, which occasionally kind of needs to shut up occasionally, but it worked very well live, and they always had a lot of issues with each other, so it was a very fractious sort of band at times. This is the second album that came out on Rotten Records. It's pretty friggin' legendary as well. But yeah, they broke up semi-regularly. I was at the final gig of the original singer Jamie, which was in Canberra, and it was this painful gig where he was in this weird school hall almost, and he was up in the rafters, like it was a classic sort of, theatre sort of style. He was up there with a wireless mic, not singing the songs that the band were like really pissed off playing, and just sort of slagging the band off in between songs. It's the most awkward gig I've been to, but I was very pleased I was there. For a time, they had their third album, this one, Purified in Pain, has Kevin Sharp from Brutal Truth on vocals. Thankfully, not trying to do the same style as Jamie, like he sounds like Kevin Sharp. So, which is all right, but it doesn't really suit the music. They had a couple of replacement singers, including Brendan from Earth, who did try and do the Jamie sort of style, because it's very rapid fire. It's a unique sound. And they really influenced a lot of Aussie bands over the years as well. There was a number of very similar sounding bands. And I mean, even a band like King Parrot, which is a pretty bloody popular band these days, due to Pantera and so on. But yeah, as soon as I heard them, I'm like, it's ripping Damaged off wholesale there. What are you guys doing? But yeah, there were a lot of bands back in that. I mean, this is all like early 90s sort of style. It doesn't say what year it is, but it would be like 93, somewhere around there. So, and they got pretty legendary live. I remember one, the drummer, Matt, who's a very good drummer. He was always a thing to watch. I remember they supported Cannibal Corpse on the Leading tour, I think, so mid-90s, whenever that was. And for some reason I got in before the gig started, and they were doing sound checks, and he was set up on the floor just mucking around on his kit. I just remember seeing the Cannibal Corpse guy just looking over going, what the hell? Because he was drum roll king. He was very, very good drummer. So one Metal for the Brain, they played with him with his back to the crowd, so everyone could watch what he was doing. Plus probably show off his ridiculous. They called themselves Hate Core, and they weren't like sketchy or anything. They was just aggro, very Aussie aggro sort of style. And yeah, he had a tattoo of Hate Core on his back, I think. So, yeah, nice one. But yeah, they were very legendary band. You can get, like, I think Rotten has put out the first two albums on like a double disc version or something or other. So I'd highly recommend people to check them out. But yeah, it's live. It was just a million miles an hour and just very, very powerful. And it was also amusing to watch them not enjoying each other's company at times. Can always help with some bands, especially when they're already an aggro sort of band.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Good one, Alan.
All right, this one, Aaron asked for this one in the chat, and it was on the list anyway, so let's go ahead and do that since I'm kind of working through some 80s stuff. Australian band named Blackjack made this one EP, 12-inch EP in 1985. It's called
Stupid cover.
called 5 Pieces of 8. It's better than the cassette version cover, which we can do that. And then you'll want this cover back. Here's the cassette card.
Oh.
The pirate doesn't seem so bad now, does it?
No.
Yes, but you are correct not to belabor the point. In an absolute sense, yes, this cover with the pirate thing, it does look like something you might see like in a One Piece anime. But yeah, they only did the one EP. It's always been a little hard to find, especially over here in the States. It's one I heard about for years and years and years. I eventually heard it and kind of forgot about it. And sometime in recent history, Aaron had featured it over on his channel, Metal Theologian. And So yeah, he kind of reminded me, he's like, oh yeah, I haven't heard that thing in like years and years and years. So had dusted it off and gave it another listen. It's an interesting one. Like I said, it's just an EP. It's got 6 songs, but 2 of them are instrumentals. So the first song on side A and the first song on side B are instrumentals. And I got to say right up front, that is not the way to structure an EP, gentlemen. If you're going to make only an EP with 4 real songs, just put the 4 songs on it. We don't need the 2 instrumentals. No, don't do it that way. The tracks on side A are okay. The first one's okay. The second track, Hot Rocket, is, I think, supposed to be kind of like a biker-ish song, but doesn't feel like it quite comes together. The B-side, though, is actually kind of cool, but the songs are in different styles, which is one of the kind of odd charms about the EP. It's kind of like the band hadn't decided what style they were going to stick to, so they just did like one song of 4 different styles each. Because you get Man at Arms, which is actually a much slower, kind of doom-tinged number. It sounds like something that like Nemesis would have done before they changed to Candlemass, but it's really, really well done. And then the closer, The Wizard, is a little more up-tempo than that, but still, a reasonably heavy and good track. So yeah, it's just kind of weird that you've got an instrumental, you've got, a wannabe biker tune, you've got a doomy tune, you've got just, a really solid heavy metal tune. They just, had not picked a lane yet, and they didn't stick around, so they never really got to. I think they did have some demo material floating around as well. But the EP is really the only thing that was ever put on vinyl. So not one you see very often, but it's never been a very expensive item either, because there's really not much demand for it. So it's one of those titles that's almost too obscure for its own good in terms of trying to be like a high dollar collectible, which is good because it means if you can actually find it, you shouldn't have to pay a big price for it. So yeah, Australia, Blackjack, it's kind of proof that, well, like we've been saying, there's not a huge number of bands that were known from Australia in the 80s. There were these, local, small, regional bands that were out there doing stuff just like they were in Europe and just like they were across, the US and Canada. And, some of them did leave a vinyl artifact here or there. So Australia's scene was doing the same kinds of things that others were. It's not like there were only 3 bands and nobody else had picked up an instrument. But yeah, Blackjack, kind of an obscure, cool one. And thanks to Aaron for mentioning that in his video a while back, because yes, I had completely forgotten that band existed until he.
Yeah, he showed a copy of it. I remember the cover after you showed it. I remember it was Aaron that showed it. Yep.
Aaron's about the only person on YouTube who could show the original of that one for sure. So cheers, Aaron.
Yeah, I'd never even heard of that band until I saw the thumbnail for this video. I was like, Blackjack, who the hell's that? And yeah, no, that was pretty good. There's 2, I don't know if you've seen them, there's 2 promo videos that they did on YouTube.
Oh, nice. I have not seen those. I don't dig around on YouTube as much as I should.
Prancing around in the studio, they're worth watching. But the tunes were killer. It was little, and I mean, I've never seen that for sale in a shop. But that said, if I saw that cover, I'd probably keep flipping anyway.
Exactly. It's the front is not going to make you buy it. I don't even know what the back cover looks like, so I don't know if there's a good picture of them in like bullet belts and stuff that would draw you in, or I'm going to guess not. but no, yep. If folks see it, stop and check out the Blackjack if anybody sees it.
I'm thinking more bandanas and tight zebra pants, possibly based on the film clip.
I'm thinking like a brand new, freshly laundered bandana holding up a perm. Yep.
But yeah, I'd recommend watching those videos because the singer's got some moves, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. That's cool. Well, Marty, I will pass the baton over to you for your next pick.
All right. Well, speaking of Misery's Omen, Andrew, he went on to be in a 2-piece band with another guy who I don't have any idea who it is, but that would be Sacrifix. They put out 2 7-inches, Lone Pine. This is a split with Stargazer, Trial by Obsidian. And they put out a split with Resuscitator.
Yeah, I think so.
And the Western Front full length, and then they just kind of faded away at that point. This is really the best way I can describe this is it's murky. It's just murky sound, kind of. It's just hard to explain. It's really weird. It's like if Misery's Omen had a more subdued, murky sound. It's a little slower. A lot of this subject material is based around, I think, singing praise to Australian folks that fought in wars type of thing.
Yeah.
Haven't read the lyrics, but it's all a bunch of, you can tell by the art.
Yeah, it's basically World War One themed, I think.
Yep, World War One themed, and it's just really interesting. Nuclear War Now put out a lot of this stuff, and back in the day, and I don't know if they've ever repressed it, but it's just weird. Check it out. I don't know if it's really, not that Misery's Omen is for everyone, but I think this here is even more just kind of out there. Brave soldiers who fought the emus. Yeah.
Yeah, they showed those dodo birds who's boss.
Those emus are big, believe me.
You
wanna
wouldn't
take
want
one
to
on?
fuck with one of those. Absolutely not.
There's actually one on my drive to the local town that's sort of nearby us where we do a lot of shopping. I always look out for the emus. It's just in someone's, property on his farm. Just I always see it. It's like, oh, emu. But Sacrifix. The drummer was Neil, who was in Grenade and Stone Wings and a batch of. He's a mountain boy. He's also in Innsmouth as well. So yeah, pretty legendary dude.
It's kind of weird, murky.
Yeah, I don't think they ever played live, which is a shame. I think they might have been gearing up to at one point. But yeah, not sure what happened there. I mean, they live in completely different states, I think. So that probably doesn't help matters. But still.
Johnny Touch came in and took precedence.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep. All right, Geoff, you're back. What you got?
All right. Got some black metal from Sydney. This is one of my early discoveries of black metal. This is Naul. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is their 96 album, I think, somewhere around there. Hey, good work.
Vampire Pressing, is that an OG?
Oh yeah, that's the original one. Yeah.
Well, mine was ruined in the great bathroom leaking
one.
Incident of 3 years ago. But yeah.
But yeah, their first demo as well, like the 94 demo, is pretty legendary as well. But yeah, they're just raucous, nasty black metal. It's got sort of high pitch. There's a lot of sort of death metal influence in it as well. And I mean, that's a band. I don't list who was in what band, but Steve Hughes from Slaughterlord drums on both those things, I think. They've had a number of lineup changes over the years, and they got a bit more sort of keyboardy and symphonic. Yeah, as Simon just said, the Black Seed EPs, the one after that's pretty bloody good as well. But this one for me, it's just raucous. There's the song Hatred is just that pure hatred. It's the vocals are just so over the top on it. It's lovely stuff. Occasionally, a lot of it's sort of buzzy, fast black metal, but on what is it, Unearth and Distance Begins, they sort of slow down with some big ass chugger riffs, and it's just so powerful. They didn't play live in the early days that much, but after Black Seed sort of era, they used to play live. They toured with Impaled Nazarene when they toured, and I remember seeing them at Metal for the Brain, and it was just stupendous. They actually played MBF one year, I think in the early 2010s, on the outdoor stage in the extreme heat, which was a bit painful watching the singer that they got now, Luke, in this like giant leather trench coaty, standard black metal I'm evil sort of outfit. It's like, you'd be melting there, mate.
Lost about 10 pounds in that show. Yeah.
It's like watching that Muglar or Muglar, whatever they're called.
Migwa, yeah.
Yeah, in the full sun with the leather jackets on. You'll be loving that, boys. But yeah, very, very kick-ass band. They're still sort of going. They got I think the album after Black Seed was Iconoclast. That was pretty bloody nice as well. But they put Ocala out pretty recently. There was almost a return to form of the nastier sort of style, less keys. I mean, Lachlan, the main keyboardist in the band, did a lot of production work as well. So, but yeah, amazing bloody band. Easily one of my favorites.
Awesome. Good pick.
Have you had that for long, Marty? Or
Oh yeah, I've had it for ages. Like I said, I had a bathroom malfunction up, and my CDs are unfortunately right above it, so the inlay is all fucked up. But you can see it's all wavy. As soon as water hits these things, it's. But yeah, see how it's all wavy? Yeah.
Yeah, I got a batch of those.
Fucking sucks. But yeah, I did have Iconoclast too. I had it in the distro forever, and I think I sold out of them before I could keep one. But great band. It's a good band that I never think to listen to. I mean, when I got that CD, I listened to it. I'm like, wow, this is dark, twisted, killer shit, and I just never stuck with it.
I should show this one off as well. A fancy picture disc of a live gig of theirs.
Cool.
This has been played. I don't usually like picture disc particularly, but this one has been played a lot. Although it's always hilarious. They got this evil intro that they use of it's actually, I think, Doc Neeson from the Angels did this weird spoken word, like talking about incense and evil, black magic sort of stuff. And then, which is all this cool intro that they use, and then suddenly you can hear the drummer just go 3, 4 just before they start. Just totally ruins the atmosphere for it. Makes me laugh every time.
Yep. All right, good pick, Alan. You're up.
Yeah, very cool. I've somewhere in the past I heard that band and liked them, but I never circled back to them to really fully check them out. So I'll have to do so. Let's see. All right. I'm still stuck in the 80s heavy metal scene. One of my all-time favorite EPs came out of Australia, and it's this band called Taipan. This was originally released as a 7-inch in 1982. I have the 7-inch, but I forgot to pull it out. So here's a picture, a very different cover image for the 7-inch version.
Is that the same artist that did Johnny Touch?
I think it's
like
his cousin. I think it's his cousin.
Looks like the same artist.
Yeah, so it was originally a 7-inch EP put out in 82, and it eventually got reissued by Bullet Records in the UK in 84, which is what I'm holding here. It was put on a 12-inch format and given a different cover. Oddly, this same exact cover piece was also used on one of the albums by the band Picture that came out, and it's like the European pressing of one of their albums, except it's all like yellow instead of green. So it's the same image, just color shifted, which is really, really weird. Anyway, the Taipan EP is one of the, just like for 82, 84, it's a screaming high energy, just total assault. It's got a very loud production. The guitars are really wailing. The drums are very echoey. So it sounds like it's just going to come out of the speakers and explode in your face. 3 of the 4 songs are just totally up-tempo, complete classic headbangers. And it's another one, just looking at it, you don't know what the heck to expect. The back cover doesn't help you a whole lot because it's basically the same thing. But yeah, the first 3 tracks on this, Breakout, Lady, and Tired of You, these are screaming classic heavy metal tracks. You can tell they're taking a lot of sort of cues from the new wave of British heavy metal, but they are infusing it with a lot of energy. Sometimes people complain that new wave of British heavy metal, a lot of it maybe sounds a little too laid back. This sounds like, the guys that just, pumped themselves, full of speed before going into the studio and just completely went for it. And it is amazing. And sadly, it's the only thing the band released in their original run. There's some demo tapes. There's some live recordings. I scrounged around in the corners of the internet for years to get MP3s of some of that stuff. And some of it is quite good. They sounded really good live, too. They did come back to life in the 2000s, and they've done a few albums. I've checked out a few of them. Yeah, I have a reputation for not always following up on bands when they reunite. I did follow the Taipan reunion for a few years. They did like an album called Storm Witch, Old Flamethrower. This is like 2007, 2010 timeframe. They're okay. They're not terrible. They're not an embarrassment or anything. But they, again, it's essentially 20 years after the fact. You just can't recapture the kind of crazy over the top energy that you had 20 years earlier. So those albums always leave me a bit wanting, because this is just one of those rare things that just can't be duplicated in terms of just sheer raw power. Now, to be clear, we're talking 1982 here. This isn't, I'm not talking insane over the top, evil satanic blackened thrash that's on par with Hellhammer or early Slayer or something. It predates that. It's not of that era. But yes, if you like early 80s metal, if you like the more really up-tempo new wave of British heavy metal stuff like early Jaguar, for example, Taipan, the EP is worth checking out. Again, it's never been a particularly expensive one because there's no real demand for it. It's gotten a little harder to find over the years. The 7-inch version is always been a real pain to find. It took me probably a decade to get my copy of the 7-inch. But the 12-inch, again, Bullet, had reasonable press runs for a lot of their stuff. And only a few of some of the Bullet ones are collectible, but the Taipan's never been a high dollar item. So yeah, check that one out if you like it. Kind of a good example that, even some of the quote unquote traditional heavy metal from Australia, even early on, even that stuff was a little bit supercharged, just like we've been talking about the thrash bands kind of leaning more extreme. Even, Taipan was really pumping it and amping it up a bit compared to some of their contemporaries, say like in Europe. That the EP blows away probably anything made in the States in 1982. Not even, I'm off the top of my head, I can't think of anything from the States that would hold a candle to that in 82. So there you go, another deep cut from the early Australian metal scene.
All right,
Marty, let me pass it to you, and I will catch up on some chat comments while you do.
Brendan Von Doom has got a little thing there for you, if you want to respond to that. All right, let's get this out of the way. I know this band has worked real hard at getting canceled over the years, but you can't take away the fact that this album, in particular, I don't like the new album, and I wasn't a big fan of the EP leading up to the new album. But all the other stuff, this one in particular is my favorite. Phoenix Rising by Destroyer 666. There just really isn't a more anthemic, triumphant sounding band. The riffs, Keith's vocals are just so spiteful and stately. The way he sings, the way he presents the lyrics it's great. And this is one of the most catchy, powerful, memorable. The one complaint I have about this is the drum. The drum sound is real synthetic. But other than that, I mean, they redid off their debut album, Violence is the Prince of This World, they redid Eternal Glory of War. And with a better production and a less sloppy performance, it's awesome. I mean, it is anthemic. This whole album, I Am the War God, Lone Wolf Winter, it's just, God, song after track, banger, banger, banger. I mean, Unchain the Wolves, great. Violence, I'm not a humongous war metal fan, and he was coming off of his stint with, he started off in Corpse Molestation, went to Bestial Warlust, which is straight up war metal. I mean, violent, just attack, feral attack of satanic death metal. And which I had both of the CDs. I thought they were okay, but I just never listened to it. I sold them. I kind of regret it. But Destroyer started off on that direction, but with Unchain the Wolves, cleaned it up the sound again. It took on that triumphant, stately, anthemic style and rode it for a long time. The last good album for me is Wildfire. But yeah, this album rules. This is right up there as a favorite too. I put this thing on and it's an air guitar headbang type of album. Fists in the air, singing along.
They have a great way of managing to do really long songs that you don't notice are really long as well.
The melodies, the guitar melodies, the twin harmonies, all that shit. They do traditional heavy metal mixed with this heavy stuff perfectly. They really do. Yeah.
I think, and I don't think Cold Steel for an Iron Age gets enough love as well.
It's a great record too.
Yeah.
That is one of the best titles for an album I have ever heard. That album could stink, which it doesn't. But just the title alone, it's just like that should be put in like the Hall of Fame of album titles. Cold Steel for an Iron Age. Just like, yeah.
But yeah, I'm a Phoenix Rising fan myself as well, and I kind of like the drum sound. But
yeah, I mean, it's just it doesn't bother me, but they're really clicky and very synthetic sounding.
But
I haven't heard Phoenix in forever.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, but yeah, I there's of course tons of controversy with the band, but yeah, they do have several good albums. I liked several. I haven't played them in several years, but yeah, the debut is good. Oh crud! I think it's the one after Phoenix. What came after Phoenix?
Cold Steel.
Cold Steel.
Okay, Cold Steel. What came after Cold Steel? Then I've got the
Defiance.
Defiance is actually Defiance was a good album.
Well, there was some EPs in there too. I can look it up here. I have the Oracle open.
Yeah, unfortunately, I forgot to pick it out. I've got the Wolves, Women and War one, which has got a rather rude cover.
Mm-hmm.
I had that. I used to have that 7-inch.
They put out.
I gave it to
It's
Stephen
all right,
O'Malley. I
but-
traded to Stephen O'Malley for something.
I had Lucy from Arm and Angel always used to hassle me because he somehow missed out on that one. He's a diehard Destroyer fan, so I was like, "Oh, if you want to sell it, I'll be here." I'm like,
Yeah, the Terror Abraxas EP was in between Cold Steel and Defiant,
yeah.
which is great too.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
No, I didn't hear that. Yeah, I looked after Defiance. I kind of lost track of them.
Yeah.
Just for whatever reason.
I mean, they're still killer live. Actually, I don't know if I saw him.
Yep.
I think I did see him last time they toured, despite his rantings and ravings. But
Yeah, Keith needs to shut his fucking mouth and just play. But I think he's always kind of been that way. The stories I hear, he's always running his mouth at the wrong time and close to getting his ass whooped type of thing.
I still hope that story that he insulted Caller of the Storms from Blasphemy, got his head punched in. I still gotta hope that's true, but
yeah. Yep. Well, great band. Someone's pulling some sweet wheelies going by your house.
We've got a nice, wide, long, straight street, and there's some to get on his trail bike just cruising around too speedily. Hopefully, we don't have any pets, but yeah. If you hear police sirens in the background, you'll know why.
All right. Geoff, you're back.
All right, next up, I'm doing this one for Simon from Explosive Action. He asked for it. This is Arrial with their Renaissance Misanthropy album. It's a Queensland black metal sort of band. Kind of melodic black metal, you could say. Sort of, Dawn, Dissection, Allegory sort of style. Pretty bloody killer. I don't know if they got any love overseas at all. They're working their way up in the Australian scene, that's for sure. We got like 2 albums. This EP beforehand, Summoning the Essence of Ancient Wisdom, is pretty freaking killer as well. Although I will whinge about this band. They used to play live a lot and played in Canberra, which was nice of them because they're from Brisbane, which is like over 1,000 kilometres away. It's pretty bloody far. So, but they played lots of metal for the Brains as well. But I used to get bored with them live. They got really long songs and they had a lot of mellow bits that sound amazing when you listen to the CD, but live was just like,
it's not what you want live. Yeah.
So, but yeah, on CD, freaking killer. A really bloody excellent band. I don't think they're still going anymore. They did have a second album as well, and they got like Dan, the bass player from Psychrist, joined them a bit, but I haven't seen them on a bill for a long time. But yeah, sorely underrated band. Yeah, as you can tell from Simon's explosive comments, he's quite the fan.
The explosive compilation cassette.
Yep, I have a copy of that. Good stuff. All right. Good one. Alan.
All right. covering some other. Let's see, what year did this one come out? I always forget. This one, okay. This one's a little bit later. Came out in 1990. I always think it's a little earlier than that, but Australia did get in on kind of the epic power metal vibes a bit with this one from 1990. It's a band called Redeemer. The album has another fantastic title. We were just talking about Cold Steel for an Iron Age. The Redeemer album is called The Light is Struck and the Darkness Splits. And you can tell from the cover that, yep, they, these guys play Dungeons and Dragons, and there's just no denying that. They're leaning into it far, far ahead of, the power metal curve of these days. And yeah, the music, I often see this described as a thrash album, and I don't think that's a really good description of it. It does lean a little bit thrash metal, but it's the same way that like Metal Church kind of sort of leaned slightly towards thrash metal. It's more just, kind of, traditional metal. Better comparison would be some of the, 80s US power metal stuff, Metal Church, Liege Lord, but leaning just a little more epic than those. They got a female vocalist, I believe her name was Cindy, and she's got, a relatively, tough voice, similar to what you might expect from a band today like Savage Master or Lady Beast. The songs, it's reasonably good. I'm not going to claim, some people will hype this album to no end, and say, it's a lost masterpiece. Mark Shelton wishes he wrote an album this good, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. It's great that you're enthusiastic about it, but let's be a little realistic. It is not the be-all and end-all of epic metal history. But it is a cool listen. It's worth checking out. It has thankfully been reissued. The original copies, have always been hard to find and are, you're going to pay 3 figures if you want an original. But reissues are out there. You can check it out. It's kind of cool. And again, it's just another facet of the Australian metal scene, that it's not all just blackened death metal and kangaroos. It's, they had bands trying, all the different styles that were being played everywhere else on the planet. So yeah, check out Redeemer. And again, I have to read the title because it's just that cool, but I have to get it right. The Light is Struck and the Darkness Splits. One for the epic power metal fans out there.
Can't say I've ever even heard of them, to tell the truth, but power metal is not really my thing.
Yeah, I don't think they lasted very long. It looks like let's see, did they have anything else out? Actually, that's a good question. According to the archive, nope. According to the archives, they have nothing else. They were from Sydney, New South Wales.
Okay. Yeah. You're
All
a Pegasus fan, Alan?
I'm sorry, what, Geoff?
Are you a Pegasus fan at all? That was another power metal band from Australia.
Oh, you mean this old band?
Got a bit of love. Hey!
There you go. We'll let Marty take that one. I've heard that, but it's been a long time. I don't really remember anything about it.
I don't remember which label this band was on previously, but back in 97, I got a promo of this album. I think it was before I was writing for Maniacs, but it was for Worm Gear. It was one of the bigger labels, and I hated it. I didn't want anything to do with it, that style of music, but Rick actually sent me this, and I opened up the package and looked at him like, I used to have this record. So I put it on, and you know what? Is this the best power/heavy metal you've ever heard? Nah. But this is their second album. It came out in 1997. This is called Wings of Destiny. And you know what? It's pretty damn solid. This is a Metal Mind reissue, and it's on a gold disc. They really gave it the old 1-2 treatment there. And it has a...
Metal Mind did that for a lot of very random titles there for several years.
Yeah. This is the bonus tracks is their Metal Bound 96 demo. And this is, I would kind of lump this in with Hammerfall. It isn't power metal all the time, but it's definitely heavy metal. It's really solid. Some double bass going on there. Good singer, good melodies. It's a solid album. And anything with, a horse with wings or unicorns, it's like, really, come on. But kind of the, par for the course when it comes to this type of metal. But
It's not a dolphin, so we can work with it.
It's not a dolphin. Although my kid, the Stradivarius album Infinity with the Dolphins, he's been listening to that. He likes it a lot, and I'm like,
now Marty, see, as a parent, you're supposed to keep an eye on what your children are doing and steer them
don't call
clear of
CIS whatever
things.
you do or whatever. Don't call the Child and Family Services.
Don't sniff the glue. Don't drink the bleach. Don't listen to the Stradivarius album with the fucking dolphin on the cover. It's a short list. Come on.
Don't eat the metal line paint chips. Anyway, yep. People are mentioning it in the chat, and thankfully I had pulled it for tonight. I figured I didn't know how much power metal is going on, and doing the search for it, I couldn't find much. So Pegasus popped up. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. I have that. That's actually a decent CD. So
I think we've got some power metal bands. I'm never quite sure what Voyager sound like. They're a very popular band. I think they were on our Eurovision entry for last year or this year or something or other. It's a band from Perth, from the other side of the country, but I think they have a guitar player, so that's probably enough for me.
Oh, that's got to be awesome then.
I did see Pegasus once, and I was of the same
you don't see a lot of guitars in grindcore. Wonder why that is. It seemed like that would really be great.
There is a Melbourne band called ESP Mayhem that are only keyboards, drums, and vocals, and they have 3 keyboardists that play kind of rhythms, and it sounds odd. It's sort of like grind, so it's like blasting drumming and weird. All 3 of them doing different bits on the keyboard. It's special kind of band, you could say. But yeah, I don't think they have guitars. That's I think would be next level for them. I'll suggest it to them.
Hell yeah. Hey, David, Marty, check out Dungeon Rise to Power. Is the band named Dungeon and then Rise to Power? Okay,
Dungeon's
I will write that. I'll check that out.
Yeah, they're a band that pretty freaking legendary in the Aussie scene for a while as well. They're originally from Broken Hill, which is mining town in the outback, pretty much. But yeah, they put out a good batch of albums, and will kill alive. It was just a power metal, heavy metal sort of style, but really fun live. Just, I don't know, that singer Lord Tim, that's what he called himself for some odd reason. He's a very charismatic sort of singer. I don't actually own any of their albums, but they'd be fun to listen to, I think.
Yeah, I've got some of their stuff on a couple of compilations, and I remember them being pretty good.
The live was just so much fun, which is kind of weird, seeing I didn't enjoy Pegasus. I think Pegasus were a bit too serious, maybe, whereas Dungeon.
You're serious when you're breaking out the fucking airbrushed horse with the white outer glow and that's serious shit right there. Serious business. All right, Geoff, you're up next. What you got? I'm gonna go use a little boy's room.
Yeah, no worries. This is not power metal by any means. This is Murkrat. This is a doom kind of band. At this stage, I think it was just Mandy, who's Mandy, who used to be in Lycanthia and is in the Slow Death and was in Crone as well. So it's kind of a mix of ethereal, the Gathering sort of style mixed with DeLorean style doom and a bit funeral doomy. So slightly odd sort of style. So there's organ sort of keyboards to give it that funeral sort of feel to it. This album has 3 newer songs and all of this Murky Ratmus demo, which was Mandy and her name Becky, I think, was the drummer for that period. And they do have a second album which has got Naul from Sacrifix and many other bands on drums on this. But Mandy's just got this amazing voice. She doesn't just do clean vocals. It's growly, nasty, raspy sort of style as well. But the serene stuff is just lovely. I don't know. It's a underrated band. You never hear anyone talk about it. Both albums are on Aesthetic Death, which is a British label that I think Esoteric are on, and a batch of other. It's usually experimental doom sort of stuff. So yeah, it's just a very odd band. They never played live as far as I know, but it's got an amazing voice, and it's bleak but beautiful, if you know what I mean. So I'd recommend people check that one out.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I do not know that one. Let's see. Get the
even have the pretty looking record version of it as well.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I think Mandy does the artwork as well, which is stylish. Not sure how well that's
Nice.
coming across, but
Mhm.
yeah. Just a nasty doom band you missed, Marty. It's
What are they
Murk
called?
Rat. Murk
Oh, no.
Rat. So Murkrat.
Okay.
Yeah. Odd. So I reckon, yeah, it might be up your alley.
Right on. We'll check it out. And Alan's next. What you got?
I've got a thing. A couple more before I can get out of the 80s. This one, band didn't do too much first time around. Double checking. I think but they are still technically active. They're from, let's see, where is this? Brisbane in Queensland. They only did an EP in their 80s days, but then they came back and did some albums around the turn of the century. They're called Vice. I think I've shown this one before when Phil from Chromium Dioxide was on the show with us. They did this one EP. The cover is one of those things that even in 1985 you would have kind of just face palmed over slightly. It's called Daddy's Little Girl.
Oh, God.
But the cover is actually not the thing that it's probably most infamous for. And the band was infamous for a few things. At a concert in '86, the vocalist actually got stabbed by a fan who jumped on stage. So yeah, they had that going for them. But besides the heartwarming winning cover, it's only an EP. There's 4 tracks on this. They have a grand total of, let's see, the archive says the whole thing, you've got 16 minutes and 7 seconds to win over a fan base with this EP. The second track they dedicate to a cover version of Stop in the Name of Love by the Supremes. Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're just farting around for 30 seconds. They do the whole song and they go for it. So yeah, that happened. Probably better this one didn't make it too far outside of Australia, but yeah,
For obvious reasons.
for multiple reasons, inciting fans to stab you. If I had bought that EP and got a Supremes cover, I might have wanted to have stabbed him also. Mike can sympathize slightly there. I'm not sure. Anyway, not going to dwell on this one. There's not much else to say about it. It's just one of those obscure Australian vinyl pieces that when you see it, it's definitely it's an artifact of its period. It will make you stop and think, well, that's going to be some kind of metal. It's going to be covering the Supremes kind of metal. So buyer beware. That's the Vice EP.
All right. What am I doing next here? Oh, okay. We're just going to get this out of the way. We've been all dancing around it all night, but this is Australian legend, Transcendence to the Peripheral by Disembowelment. This thing is...
Yeah, someone's going to do it.
It's so good. What the hell are you going to do after this? Really? Where would this have gone? Oh, show it again, Geoff. You got the fancy vinyl, your OG vinyl.
Well, that's the record. Oh, your CD looks pretty OG. I've even got...
It is, but yeah.
A blind, probably blind drunk purchase from the Relapse stall at an MDF. Like a limited edition version of exactly the same album. Just with a spiffy, manky cover. That does not get any better than the mighty Disembowelment.
Nope, this is... There's never been a band that has sounded like this anywhere in the Doom scene. I mean, there's a Spectral Voice. Their first album tried to rip this off to a kind of a fail in my opinion, but this shit is just, it's avant-garde. They somehow worked in blast beats in a funeral doom / world music type of conglomeration. I don't know. This is, they put out the EP beforehand. They had a demo, I believe, and then this, and then they faded away. I know members of this went on to be in Trial of the Bow, which was the pretty side of Transcendence to the Peripheral is what Trial of the Bow was.
they're in this band,
Yep,
Inverloch.
Inverloch. Yep, I was good.
Um,
Yep, 100%.
Like the guitarist Matt, who I think was the bassist in Disembowelment, plays guitar in this, and the drummer Paul as well. So very, very similar sort of style. I got very lucky to see Inverloch before they were called that. I think they called themselves Dusk initially, and they were doing they played Disembowelment songs live, and because Disembowelment never played live back in the day.
Oh, really?
They never played. I know some of the Alchemist boys, I think, got to sit in on a rehearsal with them once and said it was mind blowing. But they never played live back in the day. So seeing Inverloch, or Dusk as they were then, play at it's like a Evil Invaders festival, I think, and see those songs live with perfect sound. They took ages to set up, but the sound was just I don't know. I was there with my good mate Andy and Josh and a few other mates and Mark, and it was just, we're all massive Disembowelment fans, and seeing it live was just
Yep.
I actually that rated very well on my top 20 Aussie metal albums, like number one by a while.
Right.
And I actually got a very nice email from Renato, who's the main guy in the band, the singer and guitarist, who pretty much wrote it all, I think. A nice email from him thanking me for having liked it so much and that it made an impact on me. So
That's awesome. Wow.
I was stoked with that.
Yeah. I mean,
But
this is it 100%. I haven't heard anything like this, and I do like Funeral Doom, but I never listened to it. But this is an album I will grab and listen to. I spun the crap out of this. I mean, you hear like what Celtic Frost was trying to do with Into the Pandemonium. It was ambitious, but more misses than there were hits. And here, this is whatever they put on this record was a success. It just the whole way they approached it. I don't know how the hell you write shit like this, but it came out amazing. It came out amazing.
Such a weird sound as well.
Weird sound, weird production.
Super triggered drums, but just I think I told the story in my other video that when this first came out, I already had like the Dusk EP and so on, but I was in a classic old Canberra metal shop called Impact Records and got them to put it on before I bought it, and you could get them to put it on and you listen to it with headphones, sort of thing. And I was in there with a friend of mine, and she was not a metal fan, and I was listening to it, and it sounded amazing. I put the headphones on for her, and she's like, "That sounds evil." I was like, "Yeah, definitely." But yeah, it's amazing. I could ramble for hours about that one. It's just so bizarre,
so good.
Works so perfectly. Like your prophetic throne of ivory. That's kind of the reason why I kind of wish there was more of their stuff, like written by Renato. I mean, Trial of the Bow did follow it on a bit. And it was all stringed instruments and so on. It was a completely different sound, but still had the same sort of vibe, I reckon. But
I agree. Yep.
But yeah, the moaning vocals that he does at the end of Your Prophetic Throne of Ivory is just one of those. I've heard it thousands of times, but it still gives me chills every time I hear it. It's like, ridiculous.
It's like just a band like that. They did something. It seems like it's so hard for subgenres to move the ball forward. Like we talk about on here before, death metal. What can death metal do to evolve, to progress at this point? Right now it seems like prog influences is what's moving the ball forward. But it's sometimes, to me anyway, it sounds forced and contrived. But you hear an album like this comes out of fucking nowhere, and it seems there's so many different things happening on this record, and it feels effortless. It doesn't sound contrived or fake. I don't know. It's just how did they do that? I would have loved to have been in that rehearsal room when they were writing this shit and say, just to see if there was any arguments, what the fuck, you can't do that. We can't do that on there. This is stupid. But I don't know. It's interesting. Very interesting to me. Would have been cool to see how that was created.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, I agree with Geoff. It's one of those albums you can just really go down a rabbit hole with that album. I know at one point I spent like over an hour reading, different things. I just typed in, like, where did they get the title Burial at Ornans from? That sounds like it's from something. And like, 70 minutes later, I was still reading like, these art history, blogs and stuff explaining, the importance of that particular painting and stuff. So yeah, you can really geek out on that album hard, and it's fun.
The good one to get is this compilation one that they put out, because it's
Very
got
cool.
the album, the Dusk EP, and the it also has the first demo, that Morning September, that really doesn't sound overly amazing, I've got to say. I think I remember describing it as the drums sound like they're recorded from down the hallway sort of thing. You can just occasionally make out a bit of drums. So yeah, the very first demo, I haven't tracked that one down. It's not really high on my list of priorities, I've got to say, even though I worship the demo and the album. But yeah, ridiculously good band.
All right, you're up, Geoff. I'm gonna go.
All right.
I'll be right back.
Seeing I'm wearing the shirt, I might as well actually do Misery. This is a Queensland death metal band, still going. They've had their sort of slow moments where they're not really doing much. I think the main guy, what's his name, moved to like America for a while, but yeah, they're back now. But yeah, this is their first album from about '93, I think. A Necessary Evil. And they had their original singer Darren on vocals, and ridiculously heavy band. Just straight death metal, nothing fancy about it, but yeah, crushing stuff. I was a fan of these guys since the like demo days, and I've got to show this demo. It's a bit rude, but what the hell? Which is what my quality shirt is. Yeah. I actually,
you're all ready for church tomorrow.
Yeah. This is a repress. I've got the original one from like back in the early '90s. That it's in perfect condition because I've worn it like about twice, because I keep looking at it going, I'm not going outside wearing that shirt. Kate Lynch, woman giving birth with demons clawing it, and a giant demon baby with a massive gong. At any rate, this album, friggin' ridiculously good. They I think the Crypt put it out on nice fancy gatefold wanketry with. I think it's got the demo tracks on it as well. And I mean, their later stuff's pretty bloody good as well. The next EP, I think Simon just pointed out, it's pretty bloody nice and cabulous. They did a video as well, which I still yet to track down, sort of like the Alan Angel video, where there's like 2 songs on in a cardboard sort of sleeve. But they did these like, they're death metal band, so they're all horrible, blood and gore sort of videos from the early '90s that are pretty classic. I'm sure they're on YouTube somewhere. They're pretty tacky, really, but it's one I'm still trying to track down. But I mean, this Charmy demo came out on Walgrags for some reason, so I didn't even buy that in Australia. But yeah, that stomping band.
Richard C put out a lot of cool shit. Some garbage, but some cool shit back in the day.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd recommend any of their albums. I think the Crypt are putting out the last couple of albums, Curses and something or other, and also an unreleased album this year or next year. So, the Crypt, they get too much of my money. That is, guys.
Yeah. Right on. They're doing their job then.
Yeah.
All righty then, Alan.
All right. This next one is for the metal theologian, because we've talked about some of the cult classics from Australia. Disembowelment is fine, Armored Angel's fine, but if you want the real pure true cult essence of underground Australian extreme metal, this is the one. I've never seen the album in person. I've only seen one copy of it ever online. I don't even know how I found out about it. Yeah, I think you have to be like initiated through some kind of blood ritual to even learn the title. It's from '85. It's called Power Palace, and it's by Charlie Brown.
Oh my god!
I am not kidding. Yes, and this is a cover. And they named their band Charlie Brown. I cannot imagine why. It's a very rare album, in all seriousness here. It is, as you might expect, not the heaviest thing on earth. It kind of goes back and forth.
Simon said, "Leave the hall."
Do you have a copy of it, Simon? I didn't think so. But yeah, it really does go back and forth. There are a few songs on this that are reasonably heavy by 1985 standards. If you're someone who's only grown up in the extreme metal generation, no, you're not going to like this at all. If you grew up watching Twisted Sister videos and stuff like that, there's a handful of songs on here that are reasonably heavy. They could put together some riffs, and the songs had a decent melody to them and such. Unfortunately, the other half of the songs are like the schmaltziest, sappiest ballads you could ever want to hear. Ricky Rackman introduce while he's talking to Warrant or Poison or something. So the album has a real split personality. It starts off good. The first couple of songs, these are reasonably heavy. It might appeal to fans of early Riot, for example. But then you get to tracks 3 and 4, and it's just like, what the hell happened? What happened to their balls? They're just gone. And it kind of goes back and forth a couple of times. You get a couple more good songs, or a couple more that are just literally, it's like Ricky Rocket called and said, guys, you got to make it heavier. So, yeah, very obscure album. I honestly don't even remember where I ever came across this. It feels like something that was probably posted on the Colosseum website ages ago. But Charlie Brown, if you're going to be in a band, don't name it Charlie Brown. You will not go anywhere. You have no career in music ahead of you.
Pigpen is passable.
Hey, Red Baron has been used by several bands, but not Charlie Brown. This album cover, I'm not completely sure what's going on with all of this, but it's a thing. But yeah, you can check. It is just weird. But yeah, if you want to check it out more, it's called Power Palace. It's there's one copy on Discogs. If you've got $200 and an adventurous attitude, you can be the proud owner of the Charlie Brown album.
Do you have more money than brains? Well, hey, this album is for you.
Would you like to pay $200 for an album that is 50% garbage? Let's talk. But no, I mean, it's just, it's a goofy one. I had to bring it up because it will probably never come up under any other topic we ever discuss here. So, Aaron, do you have this one? I'm very curious to know what Aaron thinks of this one, if he's still in the chat.
We'll keep an eye out for that one in local tip shops.
That's where it should be. That is where it should be for sure. But yes, that is my last goofy 80s one. After this, we're going to get on to some better albums, a little more recent as well. But had to bring up Charlie Brown. All right, Marty. Show us a real album before more people unsubscribe.
Well, this is probably not the crowd for this record, but I'm going to show it anyway. We're going to go my only non-metal pick for Australia, and that would be Dead Can Dance. I love this band. I love this band. There's a couple albums here and there that they lose me on, but this is their debut, and this is debut full length, and this is their most post-punk sounding. But even then, they had a weird mystical atmosphere to them, and as they went forward, they had a gothic kind of period, and then they kind of moved into world music a bit, which, working with the gothic elements, it is passable, and then they kind of went more world music, and now back to gothic again. So I've got all but a handful of their CDs, and I've always loved this band. They're just... They build a world. I love world building music. I think of bands like Summoning would fit into that sphere, even though they're, aping the Lord of the Rings vibe. This is its own thing. And Lisa Gerard, is that her name? She went on to do big things. She scored part of the soundtrack for Gladiator. Yeah. Yeah, where he's walking through he's having that dream sequence where he's walking through the field running his hand through the wheat, and they hear that music in the background. That's her ethereal voice singing over it. So, this is a bit more highbrow than Enya. So don't be thinking, oh, it's that kind of crap, because it's not. There's a lot going. This is smart people music. I have to wear my smart guy hat when I put this stuff on most of the time. But this here is the most post-punk, but still it's very cool. It's post-punk mixed with a bit of goth, and then it kind of moves into more gothic, classical type of weirdness. And I just love this band. I think they have a lot. It sounds very spiritual. I mean, you listen to some music, it gives you that, spiritual aura. That's kind of what this band does for me. They're great. 100% love this band.
Oh no, I'm with you. I didn't realize we were doing non-metal bands. I would have pulled them longer.
I wasn't gonna, but I was sitting here. I'm thinking, fuck, I didn't pull it, but I need that band needs to be talked about because they're awesome. They're awesome.
Well, amusingly, that's the reason why I got into those guys was from the thanks list of the Disembowelment album, because they list a batch
That makes
of like
perfect
influences.
sense. Makes
They always
perfect
said to
sense.
dance. Strangely, I bought it on my first trip to America. It was from like normal music store, saw it in there, and just bought it blind without even hearing it.
Which one did you get?
Into the Labyrinth.
Ah, yeah.
And, which is pretty all over the place as far
Yep.
as their style goes. I'm a bit more of a Spleen and Ideal, Serpent's Egg sort of era guy. And actually the live one, Towards the Within, is an amazing bloody album. The version of Kentara on that, unbeatable. But yeah, it was pretty odd to listen to for the first time. I was like, what the hell's going on? This, and I didn't realize, she does so many different voices on Into the Labyrinth as well. Like, weird little, it sounds like a little girl on some songs, and it's like, there are no other singers other than her listed. What the hell?
Yeah. Well, Brendan was singing too, but yeah.
Yeah. But my wife doesn't like his songs as much. It's a bit too croony, sort of, 50 sort of style for her. But Lisa, I did get lucky to see them. They moved to England, in the early 80s sort of thing. So they're Australian at first, but
yeah,
quickly moved to England. And I don't think really came back much to Australia, but saw them, it's probably 15 years ago by now, but they played at the Opera House in Sydney, the classic massive opera house on the harbour. And it was a stupendous show. I mean, it was like for the Basis or whatever that second most recent album was, and they did all of that. They didn't play Kantara, but her voice live was ridiculously good. The whole thing was just amazing.
Very ethereal.
Oh yeah.
Crazy. Good stuff. I don't listen to them enough. There was a point where I was listening to them a lot, but they're one of those bands that are a little depressive to me. I mean, I don't think it was meant to be that way, but that's the way I take it, the way I connect with it. But yeah. Anyway, great shit. Love it. Geoff.
All right. Next band I'm doing is a Canberra band. It's a band called Hellbringer. Sort of a very 80s thrash sort of style. This is their first EP that was originally, they used to be a different band with that charming album cover.
That album cover speaks to me.
Yeah. They used to be called Forgery for a while. They started as a cover band of like, Sodom and all that sort of stuff. It's very, very influenced by your classic sort of, German thrash and plenty of other thrash as well. There's Slayer in there as well. So that EP is pretty good. Their first proper album, probably their better one overall. And it's like two identical twins. I assume they're identical. They look very similar and ridiculously tall, like 6'10" guitarists or something. It was so tall that they used to announce on, I think one gig I saw them, they just to stop people asking, they just said, no, he's 6'10" sharp, like to the crowd. But probably my favorite album of theirs is their later album, Awakening in the Abyss or something or other. This is basically, if there was an album in between Hell Awaits and Rain and Blood, and it's complete and utter Slayer worship. The earlier stuff's a little slightly less derivative, but this has got not whole sections, but I know my Slayer very well, and especially that era. And just I remember listening to this in the car once, just going, "Wait a second, that's straight off Necrophiliac, or what the hell?" It's beautiful to hear though, and it's done with an obvious love. So, but yeah, kind of faded. They've always had guitarist issues, so like the brothers are like the drummer and the bass player and singer. So they've toured Europe a few times. I think they played in America as well. I actually played an MDF that I didn't go to, unfortunately. But yeah, at this stage, I haven't seen anything from them for a number of years. Only about 3 or 4, I think. So I'm hoping they're still trying. I see that the brothers around there, diehard. I think the EP they cover "My Fist Your Face" by like I'm an Angel of the Wings of Death, I think. And yeah, they used to do that live. I'm pretty sure Joel actually got up and sung at one point, like well after the Armored Angel days, which was pretty impressive to see. But yeah, they were a freaking killer band. I reckon both you guys might enjoy them. It's just nothing original, nothing new. Never heard that before, but yeah, just killer stuff. I remember the early days when they first started, they were like really young. I don't know if they were like 16 or 17 or something, but fully decked out in the leather and spikes and all that sort of stuff. And it was just them playing like Sodom covers, and they're so young. It was really fun to see live. It's not what I expected young people to be doing with their lives, if you know what I mean. But yeah, they developed their own sort of style, other than the Slayerism. But yeah, killer band.
So, Discuss Gore 666 Die was asking, did you go to the final Sadistic Exekution show?
I did, actually. Yeah, that was the one and only time I saw SADX, unfortunately. I never did. They were supposed to play in Canberra at a one of the Metal for the Brains, but the story goes that Dave Slade, the bassist, got his legs broken in a fight or something like that. I don't know if that was the real reason they didn't play, but they were replaced, unfortunately. So yeah, they played one final show at a it's like his heavy metal awards night. There was people getting up on stage and the best keyboardists in Australia and stuff like that. There was a batch of other bands playing, all of which were nothing at all. I didn't actually see that much of it was in Sydney. I didn't actually see that much of the gig other than SADX, because right near the venue was a German beer cafe, and we were like, let's hang out there for a while. We just had a mate that would text us whenever, 5 minutes before Sadistic Exekution were on, so we could stumble down there. And so we sat around drinking German beer, having a good chat, and missing all the shit bands, and then went and saw SADX, and it was great fun. It was a bit too sterile, if anything. I've seen footage of old SADX gigs, and they were just raucous, crowd just going berserk. I mean, the crowd were going off for this, and they were in fine form, and it was just a bit clean sounding almost. But Rock, the singer, holy shit, it was just like just doing this Darrow moaning for like in between songs, like just the crowd's like everyone in the crowd giving him the finger and yelling abuse. It was still beautiful to see, but I really do wish I saw it back in the mid-90s when they played a bit more. Or the European tour that was pretty legendary for fights and the crowds
right.
Not standing up the front because they didn't want to get spit on or. It's a golden band, that's for sure.
Right on. Alan, is it your turn?
I guess so. All right. Well, no more Charlie Browns, I promise. Let's go with something kind of at the other extreme. Marty, you
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
You mentioned Funeral Doom earlier. Australia's done some of that. Mournful Congregation.
I picked the same album.
I thought you might. I didn't know if you would pick them, but if you did, I figured it would be the June Frost. Yep. So yeah, really strong Funeral Doom. Kind of like you. I like Funeral Doom, but I have to be in the mood for it. It is not something I play all that often. Just don't revisit it a huge amount. One thing I like about Mournful Congregation's approach to it on this album, I mean, it's quintessential Funeral Doom, very slow, very heavy, but they do two things that kind of make this album stand out compared to a lot of others in the genre. The first is that the production doesn't try to make it more oppressive than it already is. The production is actually pretty clear, pretty clean. It's not trying to make it muddy or suffocating or anything. So you can actually, hear what's going on. And they space the songs out. I mean, it looks like a long track list, but basically every other song is like a 3-minute instrumental. And those have a little bit, more of a lighter, atmosphere to them. They're not just fluff pieces, but they really kind of, help sort of, break up, this, slow trudging, monolithic style that is Funeral Doom. So yeah, when you look at the track list at first and realize what it is, it looks it's like, wait, there's only like 4 real songs on here, but they still make up the bulk of the album. And spacing them out that way and having a production that lets everything breathe a little bit actually makes the album a bit more unique. A lot of Funeral Doom bands sometimes get too stuck on trying to make every note and every little aspect of the album as heavy as they can, which is okay, but then everybody does the same thing and it all starts to run together. So I liked the fact that when Mournful Congregation put together the June Frost, they didn't go down that route. They have some lighter elements included here that kind of, make it feel a little more spacious. It's still, the songs are still horribly depressing and very, very slow. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, they gave the songs room to work with rather than just having it all in this, super dense wad of Funeral Doom and there's nothing to ever break it up. So, yeah, I've only heard a couple of their albums. I don't know their whole discography, but this one I liked. I picked it up. I had heard the name for years. It showed up used in a local store, so I bought it just to check them out. And, yeah, really liked it. It's been one of the better Funeral Doom things I've come across in recent years.
They give a little bit of light to those songs with those heavy metal guitar solos.
Yeah, that too. Good point, Marty. I didn't mention that, but yeah, they're definitely adding some elements to break up that big sound, and it works. So, some people might think, oh, that's not going to work for a Funeral Doom song. It really does. It works quite well, actually. So yeah, Mournful Congregation. They've got a good following, so definitely worth checking out if you've missed them and like that style.
Yeah, they didn't play live for years, but after a while they started touring with 3 guitarists and a bass player for some reason. I mean, half the time one of the guitarists was doing like a solo in the background sort of all the way through, but yeah, it was a bit too slow for a live point of view, if you know what I mean.
I've always wondered how that
I need a beanbag.
Yeah.
Need a couch to enjoy this a bit more, I think. But no, it was an amazing band. I mean, that's Damon from Stargazer, one of his other bands as well. Probably his longest running one. I think that probably predates Stargazer.
Yep. They would by a few years.
Yeah, but no, absolutely killer band. I spent way too much money on one of those. They did a box set thing for the Book of Kings album. It was like a, properly lacquered, nice, fancy box.
Oh, cool.
It was ordered from France it was way too much money for a fancy looking box and one record in it. But sometimes you got to pull the trigger.
Sometimes you just got to have that fancy version. Nothing wrong with that.
Sometimes you just got to think, oh, it'll be fine financially. It'll all work itself out. It'll all sort itself out in the end. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I didn't think either of you guys were going to pull this. And honestly, I haven't listened to these CDs in a while, and I've kind of lost touch with this band. But one guy. Midnight Odyssey. I got Firmament. And what the hell is this called? Funerals from the Astral Sphere. And I'm a big fan of dudes that one-man projects, and that's what this is. It's very well produced. You can tell it's got a feeling of it was all created on a computer, with a bunch of plugins and, fake drums and shit made to sound very real. And I appreciate that dedication and focus. And this guy's obviously very prolific. Like, this is a 2 CD set. It's 2 full CDs too. So the one thing that really kind of gets me about this stuff is it's too much. This is a bit too much. It's really kind of atmospheric, heady black metal type stuff. Well produced, well considered. I appreciate all that went into these songs, But one CD would have been fine. This could have been two different CDs. And that was a reason why I kind of got off on this band here. I kind of said, I'm done. He's continued to put stuff out. I think he's got other projects too. So he's a very prolific guy in the scene. And it's also the way this album comes across is you could tell that as he moved forward and learns a little bit more about writing, that he could probably start wandering away and starting to get more experimental. I feared that a little bit, and I kind of jumped off. I don't know if any of you guys followed this stuff.
No, never did.
Oh, yeah, right
I've
here.
heard the name, but don't know him.
Tyler says it best. Midnight Odyssey is the master of overtly overblown album links. Yeah. Sometimes it's just too much.
I think I have one of those albums. I don't know, it's a spacey looking cover or something or other. Maybe not. The logo looks very familiar. I think I'm actually seeing him next month playing at this festival called Essence Festival.
I think he's got a band now. I think there's like a full band involved now. So, yeah. It's interesting stuff to check out. It's well produced. It's well done. You know what? I have Suicidal Emotions, Rhinepest on, I have that on vinyl. It's like a limited to 100 pressing. I didn't know if it was sketchy or not, so I figured I probably should just not show it. But even though there you go.
It is a bit sketchy.
It is a bit sketchy. Yeah, I have that exact same record on my shelf. Yep.
Hey, he was one of the early Bloodduster drummers, so he's all right.
Right on. You're up, Geoff. Go for it.
All right. Well, seeing we were discussing him before. Can't do Aussie metal without Sad-X, legendary band. They really sort of, I don't know, encompass the true Aussie spirit, I think, of just insanity. They've obviously had a huge influence on the scene over the years. I mean, Bestial Warlust, just lifting stuff wholesale off them pretty much. And then all the bands, the Bestial influence, but Sad-X was, no bands sound as good as them in a way. Like, I've always seen them they listed themselves as death metal. And it was just perfect sort of style. It is completely crazy sort of style. The singer rock it's just pure Aussie larrikinisms. That sort of, I wouldn't say he's bogan, but it's just coarse Aussie sort of side of things. I mean, a lot of our stuff, you can tell that in Australia, stuff like the Mad Max series and all the exploitation movies like Razorback and so on were probably big influences on, most people of my vintage. And there's just that,
Most people of my vintage, I love it.
Yeah, it's just that fuck you attitude that they have. It's just perfect for Sad-X. Yep. But it's great music as well. Like, I'm not as big a fan of the first album, The Magus, which is the legendary sort of one. But for me, We Are Death is just perfect for them. It's got a variety of different songs. Afterwards, I never liked their drum sound. They always had like a plasticky sounding drums on Chaos onwards. It just kind of shat me for some reason. But yeah, We Are Death is just gold. It's so beautiful, so intense. And yeah, that was one of the early demos that I got, was just a Spiral one, which is, I think those two songs just as is are on We Are Death. And it's just crazy. Yeah, violence is pretty much the term. It's just violence in audio form. And you can tell they're crazy guys, even just from the band photos, let alone reading interviews with them. But I really like Chris Hade's guitar work as well. He's always had a great sort of style. He obviously knows what he's doing. I do remember once seeing him do a solo kind of show at a festival called Bloodlust, which it was mostly him just playing guitars. I don't know if there was even a backing like drum track. It was just him clanking around on his weird extended guitars. I think he had one of the Naul singers just like screaming stuff on stage as well. Had all this like nice background. But then partway through the performance, the DVD that he had as the background ran out. And there was just a screensaver with a DVD sort of logo for the last 10 minutes of his set.
Oops.
Killed the mood. And I think that was the gig that he actually he was like standing on, had like either like massive boots on, or he was standing on like a weird platform with a long cloak. Just looked completely alien, and which is the intention. It looked beautiful until the screensaver came up. But yeah, as Simon points out there, Dave Slow, the bassist, is doomed and disgusting. Is a weird sort of side band of his that it's kind of doomy and disgusting, I'd say. But he's a music guy. The amount of times that I don't really know him, but he obviously recognises me at random gigs. I mean, I haven't seen him for years, but in the past, he always used to come up and try and get me to buy one of his CDs at gigs, if you know what I mean. So I have several of his albums that were not quite forced on me, but he was like, yeah, sure, I'll buy this if you go away. No. He seems like a nice guy, despite the craziness.
Yeah.
But yeah, SADX, legendary. And I mean, I'm pissed off that I never saw their main sort of gigs. They played pretty infrequently, but they were legendary from all reports. I have flyers for them, just didn't actually go, which is kind of painful. But yeah, there's plenty of footage. I'd highly recommend people checking them out. And yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with any of their albums music-wise. I just don't like that drum sound. And the first album's a bit too obvious. Sarcophago meets I don't know, various bands. So I think they found their style with We Are Death. I wonder, did you guys hear much of them back in the day when they were around?
I never did.
I had We Are Death on vinyl, and I never liked it, and I ended up selling it on eBay for a bunch of money. It was an OG press. Yeah.
Nice. I would always hear about them, and the logo, it was always very distinct. It's like spikiest logo ever. But yeah, I never came across their stuff back in the day. So it was always one of those like I know that logo, but I never could find it.
I still do own a Rock 7-inch.
Yeah, I've got the album here somewhere.
Yeah.
It was all right. There's a compilation that Rock had a song on that was this. I think it was a remix version of one of his solo songs, and it's got like a techno sort of beat. I think it was just put on as a joke on this compilation of, the compilation's not a joke. There's lots of dead serious great bands on there, but yeah, here's one that's just like, really? Is it supposed to sound like that? What the hell's going on? He's a top fishing guy as well, Rock, the singer of SADX.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, he's I think he edits a magazine, or at least he used to at any rate, of fishing. He's this diehard fan. I remember once I used to work with a guy who was another competitive fishing kind of guy, and I said to him, "Oh, do you know Jamie Robley or whatever his name is?" Like, "Oh yeah, I've been fishing with him." Why? And I'm just like, "Yeah, have a look at this footage of Sadistic Exekution live." And he's like, "What the hell's going on there?" It was I don't think he's quite like that in the fishing dinghy, that's for sure. But
gotta keep that under wraps. You're not going crazy on the boat out in the middle of an ocean with sharks that are more than happy to eat you. Yeah. All right, good one. I knew that was coming too. I knew that band was coming for sure. Alan.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, this band's been mentioned in passing a couple of times, and folks in the chat have brought it up too, so we should give them their 15 minutes of fame here. Stargazer. This band's been on a lot of people's radar. I've only started to check them out here over the past few months. I just wasn't familiar with them, but people like Kellen over at Killing for Company have talked about them glowingly. Geoff and Hunter over at the Radical Research Podcast have talked to them quite a bit. Yeah, I've got 2 of their albums so far. This one's Emerging to the Boundless, and I've also spent a good amount of time spinning Psychic Secretions. So kind of a hard band to describe. A lot of people tend to summarize them as, they're kind of taking, the best elements out of progressive death metal and more progressive black metal and kind of squashing them together, which doesn't sound like the best idea at first, but it really does work quite well. The instrumentation, the musicianship is, really superb. The thing I like about them myself that I think makes it work, most of the songs, it's actually, relatively, you can follow the song pretty easily. As you listen to it over and over, you notice that, yes, there's a lot of layers to it. but they're not all jammed up front in your face. It's more like, there's a main, line that the song's following, but there's a lot of things, going on kind of subtly under the surface of it. And the songs are also mostly pretty short. Most of them, are like in the 4 to 5 minute kind of range. So they're a band that, while they're trying to do a lot of, kind of, very sophisticated stuff, they know how to package it in a very compact way. They don't need, sprawling 27-minute long songs to try to get all this information across to you. They, really can boil it down, make it all fit into a conventional song structure, and still have all this, decoration within each track that makes them stand out and makes you go back and listen to it over and over, while it still feels like, just a coherent song, not just, oh, this is instrumental number 3, the one where, the bass will go on for 8 minutes at length. They just don't do it like that. There's only one song on this, I think, that really runs significantly over the 5-minute mark. So yeah, I've been really impressed checking out the Stargazer stuff. They have not put out a lot of material. I think they've got 4 albums in about 20 years. So they take their time, but what I've heard so far and what I hear from others, they're all really high quality releases, very, very well done. So if, like me, you're kind of late to the game and hadn't checked these guys out, and you like, this kind of, more adventurous, unique death metal, Stargazer's a good one. Quite nice. They have all the chops, but they're not just doing technicality for the sake of technicality. They're doing a really good job putting it into songs that are quite, memorable and sometimes downright catchy. So yeah, I've really enjoyed checking them out. Thanks to Kellen and Hunter and Geoff for recommending them.
Good shit.
It is a weird style, isn't it? Because it still has that Black Death ferocity, but then it's like noodly bass and we just do a mellow section, and it's like, hey.
Yeah, you're right, Geoff. Very noodly bass. The bass is, very prominent, especially like on Psychic Secretions. It kind of takes the lead on a lot of the songs. It's, more the centerpiece that everything else is sometimes built around. But again, it works. It doesn't feel like a bass solo. It just feels like a different way to build a song, but they found a way to make it click.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 main members, Damon and Denny, are probably the biggest band sluts in Australia. I think the amount of different bands that they've been in.
Misery's Omen.
Yeah, Misery's Omen. They're
Void
on
Ceremony.
Album. Yeah. Johnny Touch.
Johnny Touch. Yep. I'm going to show another one right now. I think he's on this one too.
Take it away, Marty.
Cauldron Black Ram.
Hey, very good. I was debating about that one.
Yep.
Skullduggery. You want to talk about pirate death metal? Here you go. This is the only one I have by them. This was put out by Parasitic Records. It's weird. It's good. It's catchy. Really interesting, catchy riffs. I haven't spun this in a while, but I know they put out a couple more records after this. Let me see here.
3 more, I think.
Yep. Skullduggery, Slubberdagulion, Stalagmire, and Slaver. So, yep. This is just... I don't know. This has got a... I'm going to talk about this later, but this has an Australian attitude to me. I don't know. There's a vibe, a weirdness to this that feels very Australian. And I'm not saying weirdness in a bad way. I'm not saying you folks are weird, but I appreciate it. I'm just saying it's a salute, like, right on. Right on. And I mean, like Sadistic Exekution, that's also in that kind of Australian vibe. It's just, it comes from, a continent being so utterly, or a country being so utterly isolated. It's very cool that there's very little outside influence creeping. And there's some, of course, especially now as the modern era, the internet's brought everybody closer together. But those early bands, they were kind of paving their own way. And this is weird. I remember getting this and not really knowing what I thought about it initially. I ended up liking it, but again, it's pirate themed stuff. Kind of their thing. Old Smuggler. I can't read the writing on here. My eyes are so fucked. It's so bad. But anyway, check it out. This is cool. It's weird. It's interesting. It doesn't sound like everybody else. It's still death metal-ish, heavy, with really catchy riffs. Good shit.
You can't go wrong with a song where the chorus is skullduggery and the nunnery.
Yeah. Right.
Beautiful stuff.
Again, Damon Good, I believe, is on that album too. Am I wrong there? Yeah.
No, you're right.
I mean, he's such a great bass player. God, he's so good.
Yeah, but I think they've got to dial it down for the more caveman aspect of this.
Yeah, there's a knuckle dragging. There's a knuckle dragging feel to that record. For
no
sure.
noodling going on.
All right, Geoff, what you got? Any more Damon Good stuff?
Well, the Portal album that they're on was on my list. I can go into Portal if you want.
Oh, he's in that band too. I did not. He was one of the the Hangmen or whatever.
All right, we'll do Portal then. I think. He's on this one. I think only him and Denny were only session guys. I think on this. I don't know if they actually played live with Portal. This is their second album, I think. Outro. Yeah, Sepia. The first one's pretty bloody killer as well. It's got a very dry, weird production. This one, like the drums are sort of in the background almost, like really soft, but it gives it an eerier feeling. I mean, this one, Swore, is probably my more favoured one sound-wise. It's just a lot thicker sounding and nasty, but yeah, they're legendary Aussie band. Very, very weird. I've seen them live a number of times over the years, although I missed the Clockhead period for some reason. I think that was the outro tour. I just didn't see him that time when the curator had like the grandfather Clockhead. But yeah, weird, very weird band. It's barely music, but
I struggle
beyond the music, if you know what I mean. I love it.
I really applaud their aesthetic and their artistic flair, but I don't ever care to listen to their stuff. It's too much. It's not, especially as they went on. We did one of the albums for the album club. TJ picked it with the lightning bolts on it, the metallic
Ion,
cover.
I think was the one y'all did. Yep.
It was like it borderline on a noise piece. You know, it was just like, God, I just can't wait for this to be over. I just want this episode done because I don't want to listen to this record ever again. Type of thing.
It's probably my least favorite of theirs. I think it's a bit too clean sounding for me. But have you seen them live? Because it's a whole other.
That's a whole other thing. Yeah.
I think the best time I saw them was actually in America because they did play MDF one year, which was kind of hilarious watching the crowd try to mosh to that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
because it's MDF. Every band gets a circle pit for some reason, but
perfect.
Portal stuff was just beyond that. But I saw them, I think, either a couple of nights beforehand or after in New York. They played it with Gorguts. So actually on
that makes sense.
Small tour with Gorguts, and for some weird reason, Blackie from Voivod was doing the sound. And I remember seeing him at MDF doing their sound there as well. So he was obviously just touring as a sound guy. But Portal was the best I heard them. It was perfect sound, and just you could actually make out a lot of it. It's still crazy music, much like Impetuous Ritual. Sort of, it's not really a side band. It's a couple of the other members of Portal's band. It's pretty similar of just overwhelming claustrophobic
drum machine.
Too much going on. Nah, it's proper drummer, I think.
Really? I don't know. It seemed like I had one of the early ones, and I thought it was drum machine. I could be wrong. I could be mixing up with somebody else, but
I mean, that Queensland scene has some special sort of bands like that. There's Grave Upheaval as well. That's another very dense band. Dense is probably the best word. Bordering on unlistenable, but it's one of those things that you just kind of have to force it. No, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but the more you listen to it, it's sort of you pick up bits and pieces. I have great memories of driving around Chicago with a mate of mine that I was staying with. We had a tape of it was Impetuous Ritual on one side and Grave Upheaval on the other, and it just kept flipping as we drove around. So we just listened to it over and over, and after a while, you pick up more stuff, and it's like, ooh. But yeah, the outro is, and I mean, look at that cover art is so amazing as well. I do have that on a poster up there. So yeah, it's a special band, that's for sure.
Right on. I knew that would come up too. I pulled one.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate them. I think they're talented and super killer aesthetic, but I don't ever. I'm good. I own 2 CDs and I never listen to them, and that's all I need. All right, Alan.
Yeah, interesting band. I had pulled Swarth as well. They and just describe, they're a hard band to describe and not the easiest band to listen to. I've been in the mood lately for some of these more complicated death metal things, like Stargazer and Portal. So yeah, I'm starting to, like you said, Geoff, playing it over and over a few times. I'm starting to get the hang of it a little bit. Swarth, yeah, got that very odd guitar tone to it that took a little getting used to, but I'm sort of enjoying it. I don't know that I'll fully ever quite wrap my head around it, but it is interesting. So, and I'm trying to give it enough spins to to let it sink in. All right, let's see. Very other end of the Australian metal spectrum. This is an old classic and kind of a brilliant album. Someone, Ilkis, I think, in the chat asked about it early on tonight. So, Vaudeville to Dimension Logic. Vaudeville, this is not how you spell vaudeville, but they butchered it pretty much as they possibly could and still have it somewhat sound like vaudeville.
Well, if I was going to try to spell that word, it probably would look like that. So it would have a red line underneath that. I'd be like, fuck, I don't know how to spell this word.
It would be a fair stab at it, yes. But yeah, this came out in '94, and it's prog metal. It kind of in the vein of something like classic Fate's Warning or Lethal's Programmed album, kind of stuff. It's not a concept album, but the songs, at least in the first half of it, are kind of linked together. They do kind of flow one from the next to the next. It's extremely well put together in that vein. They've got a good vocalist. The instrumentation is great. The production is pretty good it works for this style. It's not necessarily top-notch production, but it was a pretty small-time release originally. But yeah, that first half of the album in particular, the songs are just immaculate. It's one of the few things I've ever heard people bring up that is sort of comparable to the vibes you can get off of classic Fate's Warning. That there's not a lot of bands that really you can kind of just really get sucked into the world they're creating and just feel like you can walk around in it. The first half of this vaudeville album, you can very much do that. There's a part, it's a little avant-garde at times. They're like clearly like it feels like you're walking through an art gallery and somebody's like describing certain pieces to you, and one of them's missing and they start to freak out about, one of the paintings is missing. All of a sudden it goes from being like this conceptual art piece to, it's just like, specimen R35 is missing. And so it's kind of a statement on, how we treat art as objects. But I mean, it feels like you're walking around the gallery following this person, listening to their descriptions and stuff. So it's a really nicely done album. The band never got any attention. They, years later, I think, put out a follow-up EP or something that really just wasn't the same style. It didn't connect very well at all. But to Dimension Logic, yeah, it's just one of those lost classics of that style of metal. It came out too late to capitalize on the popularity. If this had come out, around the same time as like Operation Mindcrime, the band, might have, been able to, make some headway. But coming out around '94, most parts of the world weren't, still looking for this type of heavy music, unfortunately. But yeah, a very cool sort of one-off from the more progressive end of Australia's heavy metal spectrum. Vaudeville to Dimension Logic. Really, really good one. And it has been reissued, so you can find copies of it. You don't have to go look for some super expensive, rare, old CD copy.
Don't know those guys at all.
Yeah, I got the sense they didn't stay on the scene very long. But yeah, it's a very cool listen if you like some of those things I mentioned. So, Marty, what have you got next on your stack?
Okay. Sorry.
No worries.
There we go. Okay, what am I doing here? Let's do this because I've got a string of dudes that are, well, one dude anyway. Okay, is this the best band in Australia? It really isn't, but I think they're worth talking about because there's been a handful of Christian bands that I saluted over the years, Believer being one of them. But when Mortification came along, look at Geoff is like, oh, he just puckered his ass and sucked his underwear in there.
Uh-oh.
But is this the best shit ever? But no, but it put Australia on the map again in the death metal category when I had no clue. When these came out, I had no clue what was even going on down there. They're underproduced. Steve Rowe's vocals were pretty killer, especially on Scrolls of the Megaloth. They came to trap.
Good.
Yeah, what's that? What's that?
The drumming is good.
Yeah, the drumming is good. Jason Sherlock, who I'm going to visit here in the next couple pulls. Some church group brought these guys over from Australia. They played in Traverse City at the Central High School auditorium in front of maybe 15 people. I was one of them. I was wearing a Dismember shirt. Some guy come wandering in wearing a Deicide, the definition shirt where it says the destruction of all that is holy. And I'm like looking at the guy. I'm like, yeah, we're badasses. We're not here with the Christian group, are we, bro? Well, you and I need to hang out later type of thing. But, they were good. They played with another Christian band called Killed by Cain who were crappy. But anyway, I think
for some reason I'm thinking Killed by Cain Roberts. I can just see him like using the machine gun guitar to like shoot them or something.
Yep. But I mean, this is the debut, I believe. There might have been one before this. They used to be called Light Force before this band started. So this is the one that this is on. This isn't the Nuclear Blast one. This is the it's too dark in here. Ben says I need more lighting in here, but I want to look mysterious. But this was reissued on Nuclear Blast, and they went on to suck. Let's be honest. They went from good to really not that good. And the Jason Sherlock, the drummer on both of these albums and the third album, he went on to do some cool stuff, which I'm going to show next poll. But I mean, is this my favorite Australian stuff? No, but I think they're worth being in the discussion. I really do. I think as far as the Christian band goes, there wasn't at the time when this came out that there wasn't a lot of high-profile Christian death metal, and these guys kind of rose to the occasion before Steve fucked it all up and started getting hardcore shouting and terrible. I mean, it was their first three records. The third record was passable, and after that, Blood World and Forward is absolute shit. But anyway, there you go.
I acknowledge that it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just kind of boring. I don't know. I saw him live a few times around then, and it was just like, the one thing of Mortifications that I own is this long sleeve T-shirt.
Well, look at you,
Probably
poser.
worth a bit. I didn't buy it.
Whatever.
My good mate Dave gave it to me as a gag present, so I should put it on T-shirt Slayer and see if it's worth anything.
It might be. Fuck, it might be.
I did see Mortification a few times back in the day. This is one of the ones where they played at Belconnen Youth Cafe, which is this. I don't know if you can see that very well. They headlined and they toured a couple of times in the same year.
Metanoia is another Christian band.
Yeah. And all the bands on there were Christian.
Yeah.
And there's like Paramaecium was the opener, and they were killer. Holy Right.
Paramaecium was way better than. I mean, okay. Okay, let's
I
just get
figure
this.
you're going to show that one.
Let's just get this out of the way. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Jason Sherlock went on to do this album, which we've done in the album club, Exhumed of the Earth. This is a great album. This is basically the thing that always pissed me off is the Christian scene always tried to, if you like My Dying Bride, check out Paramaecium. I mean, they put the little hype stickers on the CDs in the Christian bookstores, and that's what this is. It's Jason Sherlock's interpretation of My Dying Bride. It's done really well. 100% great. This is a Bombworks reissue, and what Jason Sherlock really killed at, and is this Horde's Helligusfart. This album rules.
The inverted cross.
Invert the inverted cross. Christian, holy, Hele Gusvard is holy unblack, for those of you who don't know. And he went as anonymous on this because he was getting death threats. Yeah, I'm sure these kids from Norway were going to hop on a plane, fly all the way down 20 bazillion hours to Australia just to rough this guy up and say, oh yeah, fuck you, fuck your God. But this record rules, man. I'm not going to lie. This thing, the riffs are great. The vocals are great. It's real drums. It's real. He plays everything on it. Fucking rules. This rules. This holds up with a lot of killer black metal. And for all those people that say, ooh, it's a good, catchy, well-written, raw-sounding black metal record. White metal, holy unblack, whatever you. It's fucking all. I hate to tell all the people that are pissing off about. If you're singing about Satan, you're still a Christian band. It's Christianity, man. It's all from that mythology. So there you go. And I'm not a Christian guy. I'm just saying. Anyway, go ahead. Next up. That just killed my two things.
Yeah, that Horde is. I think that's worth a pretty penny these days. I don't think that's.
I paid $30 for that record. It's a reissue. It's a reissue.
Oh, okay.
But it was worth it.
I've been meaning to track that down just so I own something. With
it's good, dude.
Inverted cross.
It's a good record. Yep.
I do remember it was a bit sort of laughed at back in the day, but then I remember hearing it going, oh yeah, that is pretty good actually.
Yep. I dig it. I always loved the riffs, and it had the raw, underproduced sound. Good shit. You're up, sir.
Back to my gig. Mortification. It just got preachier and preachier as time went on. Parameecium were great. This play death stuff didn't barely mention anything, and after a while, it was just like, yeah, scripture, and it's like, I think it was it was $6. It was expensive back in those days.
Did you go to that show?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the evangelical side of it is like, oh, come on, man, just play your music.
Yeah.
You know.
And Mortification with the headliner and the crappiest band out of them.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, my next pick is Pod People with their Doom Saloon album. This is a local band that I may have been mates with for many years. So, but they didn't get in my top 20 albums, but probably should have with this one. This is kind of a stoner doom sort of band, heavy as hell, like growled sort of vocals. They started off as a kind of an alternative kind of style, quite grunge, but about that level of heaviness when they first started. But after several lineup changes, and discovering a lot more cathedral sort of style, they morphed into that style, which they're still doing today. They got a new album coming out at the end of this month, I think. Black Farm Records. There you go, boys. But it's killer long sort of songs. Really kind of weird, slightly out of style, but just off kilter sort of drumming as well. Ags has got a unique sound, you could say. This is a band that I've seen the second most out of all the bands that I've seen. Alchemist being the winner for a time. Alchemist were playing, like every fortnight in Canberra, and I'd go to them all. But Pod People played a shitload as well. They've been around since I don't know, early 90s, 93, 94, so still going strong after I had a bit of a broken up period, but back with a vengeance. But yeah, I think the last couple of albums were on Rise Above, like Lee Dorian's label, like Doom label. So I should have shown off the fancy LP version, but just killer, no nonsense, stoner doom sort of stuff.
Huh.
Great.
Right on. Okay. Alan, I'll be right back.
Sure. All right. Speaking of, the sort of holy unblack metal direction, another one-man project called Fathomage from Australia. Just discovered this band last year. He's done several albums under this name, and they seem to be pretty different styles. He's kind of bounced around stylistically. This one's called Autumn's Dawn, Winter's Darkness. And this one is very much in the summoning camp. It's got that same kind of, slightly medieval vibe, very kind of world building. The songs have a lot of room to expand and grow in it. To be clear, it's not as intricate as summoning. So I'd say it's like a second tier summoning, meaning that as a positive thing, not as a put down. But some of the earlier ones I've checked out by the project have very different sounds. So there's one that is very much more in like sort of medieval music, not a lot of black metal necessarily incorporated into it. So kind of interesting. There's some other older ones that I haven't listened to. It's one of those projects he's put out a bunch of albums in a relatively short period of time. I was pulling up the discography over here. So yeah, he's done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he's done 7 albums since 2018. So basically, an album every year. So there's a lot of material to dig through. But yeah, this one in particular, I just kind of stumbled into it last year and ended up really enjoying it. If folks are interested in digging into it for whatever reason, you can get the entire discography on Bandcamp for something like $7, and maybe it's $9. So you can get, basically it's like comes out to like $1 an album. If you're someone who listens to a lot of stuff through Bandcamp and wants to check them out, again, it's reasonably good stuff. Just seems that he doesn't necessarily stick with one particular type of black metal very long. As it's can have a downside because you don't know exactly what any album will sound like until you test it. On the other hand, he's at least not just cookie cutter putting out the exact same album over and over and over 7 times in a row either. So I enjoyed the project. There's nothing really Christian in the lyrics of it at all. Again, it feels like an atmospheric black metal album that goes for that kind of epic world building style, summoning Caladan Brood, just again doing the same kind of thing, maybe just not quite on their level. That is Fathomage.
Well, a little surprised Geoff hasn't shown this yet, so I'll do it.
Hey.
And again, I was talking about the Australian Attitude. This is a band that is probably the biggest flag waving upholder of the Australian Attitude. Obviously, I was on a promo list for Relapse Records back in the day, so I got all these as promos. But yeah, they didn't put the Australian Cunter on the was that Cunter? Cuntier? I can't read it. I don't know. It's grindcore, well produced, silly at times, savage at times, gross at times. It's you could tell if you went to their gig, there's chances are good you might get in a fight. It's whether you're it's funny you got the Sky Valley, Kaya Sky Valley mock cover on the back here too, which is Northcote, Springvale, and Compton. But yep, this is it's excellent, fun grindcore.
Oh yeah.
You want to elaborate? You've probably
bit more, I did a whole video on them, so reasonably familiar with them. Yeah, I'll show you the. This is the original sort of EP issue with the charming CD and banjos for some strange reason, but yeah, they like to offend, as you'd imagine. Yeah, legendary. Didn't quite kickstart the grind scene. There was already sort of punky, scuzzy kind of ones as well, but certainly, yeah, gave it a good kick in the ass, that's for sure. But yeah, so catchy as well. That was such fun live. I mean, straight out of Northcote's their kind of rockiest, weirdest kind of one as well.
Oh, you got to show the whole cover there. Let's.
Okay.
You don't want to deny. Oh, wait. Yeah,
I've got that real version. It's a tad rude.
Simon was just mentioning in the chat that he saw them live once and they played naked. So.
Yeah.
No, that's unnecessary. That's unnecessary, but whatever.
That's exactly what Simon said.
They played One Metal for the Brain, which is an all ages gig where there's kids are allowed to go, anyone can go. And yeah, I think towards the end Jason got naked, and I think that was when he had a see-through bass as well.
Oh yeah,
There was like Perspex. And he didn't mind flashing those.
It would only show up for a while
class.
because eventually that stuff down there would make its own gravy and smear out the see-through. Yeah.
But no, live though. I mean, they always use the less is more sort of style of, we'll play like a 20-minute set and that's all you get kind of thing. But yeah, they were such great fun. Yeah, I mean, all the albums are pretty bloody killer. But yeah, I'm a first album kind of guy. Although straight out of Northcote, the rocky, groovy stuff on here, it's their first proper use of it, and it's beautiful stuff as well. But yeah, live it was the crowd went berserk for him as well. I mean, Tony the singer could really whip the crowd up into a pretty bloody good frenzy anyway. But yeah, the music just perfect, and yeah, pure Australian larrikin sort of style lyrics, highly offensive lyrics, and just but amusing as well. Funny as buggery. But yeah,
Are they still together?
I went to their very final gig in 2017, I think. Yeah, they did a final gig at the in Melbourne, which was grand fun.
I bet.
The memory's a little hazy after a few too many beers, but I do remember enjoying it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in various other bands now. There's like the singer Tony's in King, which is a black metal band, and he was in the day, but he became nothing for a long time. The killer gore grind sort of style. Jason's in Burn the Hostages. Was in a band called The Ruiner, which was like a kind of Christbait spin-off band, which was a sludgy band from Melbourne. But yeah, they get around. I mean, the long-term guitarist was in Mindsnare as well, which is like a hardcore band, pretty legendary Aussie hardcore. So yeah, get around. Their final gig, I think they played with like two drummers as well. It's like Dave Haley, was the drummer towards the end of from like Psychroptic and a million other bands. Yeah, but for some reason they got Rizzo back as well, like the main sort of drummer that they had for most of their albums. You couldn't really tell that there was two drummers playing. It didn't really add anything to it, but it looked cool. So yeah, what the hell?
Right on. All right, you're up, sir.
All right, what's next? Okay, sticking in Melbourne for a while. This is a band called Derailment. This is their Come Clean in Death album. This is a sludgy, doomy kind of band. It's like various members of Contaminated and Eternal Rot. So a lot of the Melbourne grind, deathy sort of bands. But them doing sludgy, horrible stuff. Very much in that sort of your Buzz Oven or Weed Eater, good old Weed Eater. I know you guys love them. That sort of style of, I mean, with kind of shouty sort of vocals. They actually, on this album, they use two different women sing on it as well, or shout on it. It's not nice singing. It's really aggro and works very well. I really quite like these guys. They also sound a bit like Christbait, which is a legendary old Melbourne band that I don't think they're as big a fans as I am of. But so yeah, just punishing heavy stuff. I don't think I've seen them live yet. And the cover art is the three guys in the band doing garbage collection or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's coming out on Behind the Mountain. That's a Polish label, I think. Yeah, just a newer band that I'd very much like to see live. I keep prodding anyone trying to organise a Canberra Fest to put them on the bill and never see their name on it. So hoping one day to get to see them. But yeah, pretty aggressive stuff. I love it.
All right. Alan, I'm getting down to nothing here, so
yeah, I've got just a few more. So
we're about 3-hour mark, so we should probably next couple rounds here wrap her up.
Yep, I'm about at that same point too. This round we'll do kind of a more traditional doom metal band called Rituals of the Oak. Sorry, there's an S. Pretty straightforward doom sound. It's in that wannabe Candlemass, Solitude Eternus kind of vibes. They had a female vocalist named Sabine. She does pretty well on the material. This is their original demo from 2009, so it's just a 2-track CD that they put out to start getting a little attention. And both songs are reasonably good. I mean, you can tell they still, have, a little work to do kind of polishing their sound, but they do a good job with both songs. The first one tends to be a little more haunting sounding. The second track, Drown the World in Blood, leans a little bit more into maybe like, the Witchfinder General or maybe even Reverend Bazaar style for doom metal. So it was a really promising demo. The thing that kind of tripped them up was, I think, the demo got a good reception in early 2009, and then they kind of rushed to release an album by the end of 2009. And the album wasn't that great, to be honest about it. It felt like, if anything, they maybe took a slight step backwards from the demo tracks. The best songs on the album were clearly the redone versions of the demo tracks. It just felt like, the process was a little too rushed. They didn't give themselves enough time to fix up the sound and kind of shore it up. Instead, they were just in a hurry, and I think it kind of cost the momentum. There were a lot of people I knew that picked up the demo because I think this got distributed through a couple of different US distros. I want to say Shadow Kingdom was probably one of them, for example. So people, it got around. People liked it. But yeah, when that album came out, it just it felt like it kind of sucked the momentum out of the band because they didn't take their time with it. The archive says they have done a couple more albums after 2009. Yeah, they all they did for about, they've got like a split in 2011, and then they did a couple more albums in the 2010s, which I have never seen those. Didn't even know they existed until I looked them up before we got started here. But the original demo is actually pretty cool, and maybe with a few extra years there, those newer albums got a bit better. So if anyone in the chat's familiar with the 2012 or 2017 albums, let me know what they sound like if they got a little bit better. But yeah, if nothing else, the demo was kind of cool. It felt like a little bit of a missed opportunity. I think if they had taken another year, really refined their sound and honed it, they probably could have done a really cool album instead of a relatively amateurish album. So just missed the boat with Rituals of the Oak.
All right.
I think I saw those guys live once or twice, maybe.
Okay, cool.
Like female-fronted doom as well.
Yep, very much so. Yep. Let's see if anybody in the chat knows those later albums while Marty shows his next one.
Well, this is my last one. Couple ex-members of Destroyer 666, Gospel of the Horns. This stuff seemed like a lesser version of Destroyer 666, to be honest. I thought these albums were good. I know I'm missing some in their catalog, but this is a Call to Arms and Realm of the Damned. Eyesight is not good in this room. Solid, well-written, in the vein of Destroyer. I dig it. Well-written. I prefer Destroyer. This is probably why I never really pursued this band stuff. I got these both. Well, one's $17.99. That wasn't cheap. One's $14. I guess I didn't get them cheap. So I bought them normal price. So, yep. Gospel of the Horns.
Yeah, I'm quite a fan of these guys. They're always a better live band than they were on CD, which is rubbing it in a bit, I suppose. But live, there's just a vigor to them. I mean, again, it was another band that got the crowd whipped up pretty bloody good.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just catchy as buggery. They played a couple of Metal for the Brains and went down a treat with the denim patch wearing, crowd dwellers. But yeah, I'd recommend the earlier stuff actually. This is their Sinners demo. That, and I think it's Monuments of Impurity or something or other. Yeah, even the Conqueror is pretty bloody good as well. Yeah, that just kind of faded away. I think they moved to Europe or they toured Europe a few times, I think, and then just gone. So I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. Oh, I did forget to show my final. Hail the Hordes. Sorry.
So yeah, the Gospel of the Horns, that stuff's been reissued. Was it Hell's Headbangers?
There was a huge box set that someone put out. I think it was Invictus maybe put out a box set of like.
Yeah, these two early ones are on Invictus. Well, no, this is a reissue on Hell's Headbangers. Okay. Or it came out of Hell's Headbangers. I don't know. I know nothing.
Yeah. I know you can get their stuff through Hell's Headbangers, so I'm thinking they've reissued it if they didn't do it originally. But yeah,
they're pretty heavily Destroyer influenced. I mean, the very early stuff, like their first demos, sounds nothing like what they sounded later. They were sort of Norwegian black metal-y sort of style, but yeah, the Destroyer had made their mark on a lot of Aussie bands. There's a heap that sound pretty friggin' similar.
Yep. All right, Geoff, what you got?
Yeah. So my next one is Witch Skull. This is another Canberra band. Maybe plugging the local bands a bit too much, but these guys are friggin' killer. This is actually Joel from Armored Angel's band now.
Okay.
He's the drummer in this, doesn't sing in this, but the main guy of the band is Marcus, who was in this band Looking Glass for a while as well. He plays guitar and sings. And we just got like 4 albums. Looking Glass had 4 as well, I think. It's very 70s sort of, it's kind of like Cathedral meets Sabbath meets Caius almost. So a lot of 70s occult rock sort of influence on it. I'd highly recommend it if you like anything like that. Marcus has got it's all clean sort of vocals. There's no like growling or anything, but it's got a tortured kind of style. And yeah, Joel thumping away on the drums. It's very, not quite tribal, but he knows what he's doing. So yeah, this is their second album. It's probably my favorite on here, but yeah, you can't go wrong with any of their stuff. They're on Rise Above as well, like the Dorian's label. So yeah, recommend giving them a listen now if you haven't already heard it. But yeah, they're the band that I'll be seeing next week with Hellhammer, so it should be fun.
Nice, fun. All right, Alan.
All right, I've got just a couple I'll go through quickly here to wrap things up. Let's see, for a power metal entry, band Black Majesty. This is their, got a ton of stickers on the cover. Let me take it out.
I guess. Holy crap.
Yep. Their debut, Black Majesty's Silent Company.
That's
very European sounding power metal.
That cover's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, you get the big line. This character, the Assassin's Creed wannabe guy, is on the cover of pretty much all their albums.
That's not a guy. That's a lady with a 6-pack ab.
The guy character, this mascot, if you will, then kind of, I guess, their version of like the Hammerfall character. Yep. They're very good, but I mean, it's just very straightforward European power metal. If for stuff like Hammerfall, obviously generated a lot of bands that kind of followed in their wake. Black Majesty is just a good example of that. There's some really good songs. This is their first one. They've made 7 albums. I had no idea they had stuck around this long, but they've made a career out of it. So cheers to them. 2 others real quick to wrap up with. One of the big grails for Australian heavy metal, underground vinyl stuff is this band Zen Venom. The album's called From Another Planet. It's got this very distinctive black and white cover with the 2 dragons doing the yin yang kind of thing. So it's a really cool cover. It's just an EP. The musical style is very hard to describe. To me, it's got a very almost like garage rock sound, but like late 60s, early 70s garage rock. And the weird thing is this came out in 1990, so it really feels out of place as a 1990 release. So I kind of like it. It's not particularly heavy, but it is one that heavy metal collectors will go nuts for. And this is one of those like $400, $500 records if you stumble into. Yeah, it's a very hard to find, very high dollar item. Maybe it's come down some over the years. I'm not sure. Maybe a few more copies have turned up to help soften up the price. But yeah, it is a very, very expensive one, which is why I'm showing it. If folks, again, are out hunting around and you see this weird dragon cover, It may not be the best sounding record you'll ever hear, but if you pick it up cheap, you can flip it and make a good amount on it. So yeah, it's one of the real grails for Australian metal from the 80s and early 90s. And the last one for the night, I will shout out one man artist. He simply goes by the letter D. He's done a lot of different projects, as such characters are wont to do. 3 that he's done that I've stumbled into independent of one another, but liked all of them. He did this release under the name Remete. It's atmospheric black metal on Northern Silence Productions. He has done some releases under the name Forest Mysticism, which again, very good atmospheric black metal on this one, kind of a little bit more sedate, kind of nature themed. This is a split that he did with Nightwolf from Runespell, another good sort of black second wave Scandinavian influenced black metal band from Australia. And I think the project he's had the most success with is Woods of Desolation, which I think they came up in the chat a little bit earlier. People were also talking about Frostvale, and Woods of Desolation and Frostvale are a little bit similar. These projects they're partly atmospheric black metal, but lean a little bit more into like the post black metal sound as well. You're getting a little bit more of that kind of brighter, slightly shoegazy kind of vibes off of these albums. I don't mind that style at times. It's not something I play constantly, but I've got a couple of the Woods of Desolation albums, and yeah, he's very good at these styles. So everything that D works on seems to be kind of in the atmospheric to post black metal side of things. The projects, there's definitely overlaps in their sounds. They're not completely unique from one another, and he's done some other projects as well. But hey, the stuff I've heard from him so far, I have enjoyed all of it. So he's pretty good at those particular styles.
I always find it weird that shoegazy stuff actually works as black metal.
It is weird because it feels a little bit
like
at
a
odds
natural
with it.
combination. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's. I agree. On paper, it doesn't look like it should work well, and for some folks, it doesn't. There are folks that really don't like that style, but yeah, I think if done well, it has something unique to offer. So, yeah, I can dig it. But yep, that's it for me. Marty, did you have anything else, or you already showed your
good?
Let's see, Geoff, is there anything else you want to show?
I'll finish off with a couple of classics that.
Please do.
Need to mention. I know Marty didn't like these guys much, but Bestial Warlust.
I mean, it's good. I just war metal is
a
thing for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they have to be mentioned. They have to be. That's classic. Yeah.
I just got these fancy reissues from Hell's Head Bangers in the mail the other day. Honestly, I'm more a fan of Corpse Molestation.
Yep.
Their death metal band beforehand. I don't know. I had that demo before I even heard Bestial, so I loved that demo. I was looking forward to more, and then suddenly Vengeance War came out. I'm like, hey, what the hell? It was much like the Dark Throne strangeness of hearing a blaze in the northern sky after loving Soulside Journey going, what the hell, is it supposed to sound like that? But Bestial though, it's it's a fairly obvious combination of blasphemy and sarcophago with a bit of Beherit and Sadex in there as well, but yeah, it's that true Aussie spirit of like fuck you and do what the hell I want sort of style. Plus, I mean, those album covers are killer.
Oh, they're totally killer. Yeah. Classic.
So over the top. I did see them live once at Metal for the Brain, which at the time, I don't think I was quite ready for it at the time. I wasn't a giant black metal or war metal fan.
I bet you live that was like sitting in front of a steamroller on fire.
Yeah, pretty much. It was a full sledgehammer. I don't think they had the greatest sound as well. All I remember is it just sounding very sort of monotone almost, just one-dimensional. I think I was disappointed with the vocals as well, like live, but I kind of like to go back now and see it again with more experienced ears to see if I would have liked it better. They were actually supposed to play. They were going to do a reunion gig in Melbourne a couple of years ago, but COVID buggered that up. And, think it's going to occur anymore. I was really looking forward to it. I did have a ticket for it. I was really looking forward to see what the crowd would do to it, because it was never really a mosh pit kind of band, other than maybe one of those violent kill each other mosh pits.
Yeah.
No circle pit action going for those guys, I don't think. But yeah, sadly that fell through. But yeah, pretty legendary. I prefer the first album, really. It's got a rawer, crazier, noisy production than the second one. And they actually have, I like their solos. Like, they're ridiculously just Mamie Bar Mania. You know, it's as chaotic as the rest of it, but somehow it actually works. And I mean, you're right, Keith took the good sort of the nicer parts of it and made Destroy 666, which was a lot more musical, a lot classier. But you can hear it when you listen to the Bestial stuff. There is that feeling. I mean, he's only on the first album. I don't think he's even on the second album. So, but yeah, pretty friggin' legendary. The last one that I'll end with is a band that didn't actually do an album. This is a very old Melbourne death metal band called Necrotomy. Super brutal sort of stuff. They did. I never had this first demo until years later, but this second demo is beautifully heavy stuff that kind of your grave meets slightly grindier kind of bands. Really deep vocals. Live, they were just like a complete wall of sound. It was unrelenting, and I mean, they played with Acheron at this show, and these two shows, and I saw Necrotomy both nights, and was like, really, just too intense almost. A good guy put this like bootleggy kind of thing out, which is just a recording of their splits or their demos on CD, which is kind of handy. But I've loved those guys for a long bloody time. They're legendary in the Aussie scene of old geezers like me. They appeared on a show called Couchman, which was kind of like it was a proper show on ABC, which is our national broadcaster. This serious show that usually did it was like a deep look at issues of some variety, and they did heavy metal suicide sort of thing. This is back in the Judas Priest and Metallica being in trouble sort of stuff. And they had like it's kind of like the normal host, he's not a metalhead obviously, just interviewing the crowd and various band members and stuff. You could see Abramelin members in the crowd, and Necrotomy played like one song, and it's most ridiculous heavy detuned death metal. Can't make out a word. They put the lyrics up underneath in like subtitles. But they were in this huge metal contraption that they built in the studio with like flames coming up, and it was like some non-metalhead's vision of what a metal stage should look like. It was so over the top, and it was just the most ridiculously heavy, rumbly sort of death metal. It was beautiful, but I think it is actually on YouTube somewhere. It's well worth checking out. It's hilarious stuff. Because it's got idiot fans in the crowd just go, it's only heavy metal, it's all good, just beautiful. And then dead serious social workers going, it's very harmful, and wowzers, and it's a golden moment in Aussie extreme death metal days. It's a shame they didn't have more bands on there, but it's hilarious. And it even had the Modern Invasion guy, who's this other special sort of guy, Danielle, who he brought Morbid Angel out on the first tour, and the interview, he says a bit and keeps going on about grind art, but he used to label everything as, and it's like, does that mean anything? Labeling death metal bands as grind art, what the hell? But, I'd highly recommend watching that. It's this beautiful moment in time in the early 90s. But yes, Necrotomy, love it.
Right on. That's it? You got them all?
And just for Thrash will be thrashed is just that cover art again with Addictive. have to show that.
So classic. Great stuff. Well, awesome. We made it through, and all the new people in the chat tonight. Cheers. Good to see you. I
Yeah.
see a few of you have subscribed. Thanks. If you're not, please do. We do this, well, live stream twice a week, but Friday nights are the big shebang. And most importantly, if you're never heard of Mendicant Media, please go over and subscribe to Geoff's channel. It's great. He does a great job.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
thank
you've
you.
seen tonight, he's got tons of cool stuff that he shows off on his channel. So go subscribe, watch his stuff. Tons of interesting content over there.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks heaps for having me on. It's been awesome fun.
Oh yeah, your name's been on the list for quite a while, so I was really glad that we finally got you on. It's been too long in the works. But
You have anything coming up on the channel?
Got another collection update to do for last month, which is ridiculously large amount of crap. So that, and yeah, as I said, I'm going to the gigs next week for Hellhammer, Viscera Infest, and Vow, and Full of Hell. So I'm kind of hoping to piece together a review out of that. Like hopefully those 3 bands, if not individual ones. We'll see how my camera goes at live venues, but yeah, I mean, I'll probably continue in my underrated Aussie metal bands ones as well. I usually just pick 2 bands and just go through their catalogue.
Is one of them going to be Charlie Brown?
If I can track it down, I guarantee it. Yes.
Right on.
Someone was saying they're actually listed as active and maybe putting out new material. So you may even be able to catch
That's a
them live.
lie.
Oh, damn.
For the 2.5 people clamoring for more. Yeah. Well, Alan, what you got coming up? Anything? I mean, Tuesday is Let's Talk Metal Day. So what have you got coming up?
Tuesday is Let's Talk Metal Day. I too may have bought a whole pile of crap recently. There have been a lot of sales and stuff, with labels doing and distros doing end of summer sales. So, if everything is arrived, I might do that Tuesday. If not, we might talk about the band Desolation Angels for a very long time because they're awesome and don't get enough talk, and their catalog is very weird. So it's a very difficult one to kind of untangle. So we'll probably do one of those 2 things.
Awesome. Yeah, I too have fallen off the wagon again. I didn't have the money to do it, but I found some deals on some stuff I was curious about. So, yep. Here we go. Simon, I'm buying less this year. Quoted, "Let's talk lying."
Let's see. It's been very uneven this year, so I haven't stopped to figure out if it's more or less. But yeah, it's been like very very little for a month, and then it's like 17 CDs because someplace has them 30%. So it's been kind of a herky jerky.
Hard
schedule.
to say no to 30% off.
Yep. Or when you walk into your local store and they happen to have an original Hellhammer hanging on the wall.
Yep.
So it's just going to have to come home with me. There's no avoiding it.
I was on the Sentient Ruin website the other night and I got some $10 industrialized death and black metal records. So I've always had a soft spot in my heart for that shit for some reason.
There should be more.
Yeah, there should be more. And when I find new bands that are doing it, I'm like, okay. One of them was called Uranium and a little bit noisy, but I dug it. I don't know. Cheap $10 records. How can you say no to a $10 fucking record?
Hey, Marty, were you a fan of Diablos Rising from my Osmos video?
You know what? I don't own
Probably
anything
not
by
because
them.
they're shit, but
They're not very good. Wasn't it like members of Impaled Nazarene in it?
yeah, it's like the Mika the singer, and it's Magus, whatever his name is from Necromancer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep. Nope.
It's terrible, but it's still kind of fun. Like there's a couple of good songs on there.
Yep. I don't know. One of these days you might find a Marty Worm collection update on here. I haven't done one in a while, and we'll see. Anyway, you guys in the chat are the best chat in the damn internet in the VC. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Go check out Mendicant Media. Go check out Let's Talk Metal, of course. And anything to add before we jump? Nope. All right.
Awesome. Thanks again.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Monday, there will be a 3-way review up from Professor Dundee. What the hell's the name of the label?
Dying Victims in
Dying
Productions
Victims
in Germany
Productions,
released
yep.
a bunch of really good albums right at the end of July. And so, yep, we're going to package them together into one review and let you check out 3 really cool things that you can pick up from them next time you order stuff.
New Trelldom review coming from Brain Smasher. We got that to put up, and I'm going to be reviewing the new Deceased once I get my poop in a group. So lots of stuff coming on Heavy Metallurgy. Please go check it out. And until next time, you all rule. We'll see you. Geoff, don't hang up. We're going to chit-chat afterwards. So cheers, everyone. We'll see you.
Have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend.